Hello, I'm John McDonald, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Well, hello there, darts fans and listeners all around the world. Welcome to episode 14 of the Josh's Dartistry podcast. Thanks for downloading us. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Whether you are a returning listener and a loyal fan of the Josh's Dartistry podcast, or if you're a new listener indeed and you've just stumbled across us or somebody recommended us to you, then everybody's welcome, and it's great to have you on board. Well, what a few weeks it's been since we last recorded. Obviously, top of the agenda is probably going to be Premier League, being headed by 3 trips to different European cities, although 2 were in Rotterdam, but I'm sure we'll talk about Berlin as well. Yeah, it's been immense, and so much to discuss. We'll run through the agenda very, very shortly. But before I come on to that, let's introduce you, as ever, to the team. On my right-hand side, Josh Gorton. How are you, bud?
I'm very good, thanks, John. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. It's been a really good few weeks for the darts. Loads going on. Not just watching it on the television, of course, but all sorts of news stories breaking and social media going on. It's been quite the time in the darting world, Josh.
It has indeed. And I was there, John, in Rotterdam over the last couple of days. Just got back yesterday afternoon, so it's been a frantic couple of days to say the least, but thoroughly enjoyed it.
I was going to say, did you enjoy it? Was it? I know you sort of have a bit of sleep deprivation, don't you, and hitting deadlines and late night writing stories, but it must have been a great trip, Josh.
Oh, it was brilliant. The atmosphere was absolutely incredible, and I've seen it over the last few years at Rotterdam, and I thought I had to go out there, especially with it being Raymond van Barneveld's last Premier League season. It didn't disappoint in terms of the atmosphere, and obviously plenty of stories to cover later on in the episode.
So that's your first visit to Rotterdam. It's the first time you've done it?
Is indeed, yes.
Excellent stuff, excellent. Okay, we'll have a little chat about that in a moment. Before we do, let's move it on and introduce you to the third member of the team, Statsman himself, Mr. Neil Connor. How are you, Neil?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. Welcome back to the show, mate.
Yeah, thank you. I missed the last episode, was on my travels. So,
Where were you?
Dubai.
Yeah. So I've got one man next to me who's globetrotting to Rotterdam. The man on my left is in Dubai, and
it wasn't a holiday; it was work. So.
And I've been stuck in leafy Hertfordshire for what seems like forever, but I'm sure it'll be my turn one day. Neil, it's as I just said to Josh, it's been a mad few weeks of darts, hasn't it? So much going on.
Yeah, it's been great, to be honest, and I think as Josh mentioned, there's a lot to talk about, particularly from the last week.
Before we get going, guys, Neil, what's the date today?
30th of March.
And this is a little challenge, Josh/Neil. Who can tell me what anniversary is celebrated on the 30th of March? Silence in the room. Anyone? 30th of March is the anniversary of... Anybody?
Spurs opening their new stadium.
Nope. Josh, any ideas? 30th of March? Does that ring any bells for you?
No, it doesn't. Sorry, John.
The 30th of March, exactly, and it's to the minute, 12 months ago, we recorded episode 1 of the Josh's Dartistry podcast. Exactly 12 months ago this evening, we recorded episode 1. It was
yeah, because it was Premier League, I remember.
It was, yeah, in my old place where I used to live, and it was the first time we ever recorded. The show's sort of moulded and changed a little bit since episode 1, all for the better, I think, though, Neil.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's got a lot more niggly as well.
So, Josh, we're on episode 14, but it represents a full year of the Josh's Dartistry podcast. So many happy returns to us all.
Yep.
And Josh, what do you think about that, mate?
Well, they always say time flies when you're having fun, John, doesn't it? I can't believe it's been 12
It's dragged, isn't it?
It really has, yeah. I've aged so much in the process.
What are you treating us to?
Yeah, good. Did you get us a gift, Josh?
I didn't. I forgot. So for episode 15, I'll have to treat you to something. Maybe a Diet Coke.
Oh, he's so generous, isn't he, Neil?
Let's not go there.
Okay, so we are episode 14. Good evening to you both, and a very warm welcome back to Neil. Once again, thanks to Jordan for covering for episode 13. Funnily enough, talking about episode 13, Josh, I must just make a quick apology. If you listen to the start of episode 13, I opened with "Welcome to episode 13." Unlucky for some, but not for us. Unfortunately, as it proved, episode 13 was slightly unlucky because we had some audio problems, didn't we? Which we only discovered after the recording had finished.
Yeah, although, like I say, it still wasn't too bad. It's still very audible, so there wasn't much issue, but all sorted for episode 14.
Yeah, we got away with it, didn't we? And just looking at the computer now on my left-hand side, everything seems to be tickety-boo. For the geeks amongst you, I was recording in 8,000 hertz project rate as opposed to 44,100 hertz project rate. So,
no wonder.
Neil's rolling his eyes, but the audio geeks listening to this will fully understand. It's basically recording in the same frame rate as a telephone conversation.
Moving swiftly on, please.
I hate you two so much. Okay, let's have a look at what we've got coming on the show, Josh. I think we should probably start with a Premier League roundup, shouldn't we?
Yeah, like I say, it's been a manic couple of weeks. Obviously, Berlin we had in week 7, just over a week ago, and then the double-header in Rotterdam, which saw one player eliminated on Judgement Night. So, yeah, very hectic time in the Premier League now. We're getting to the business end of the season.
And I think we'll also, later on, Josh, be able to update people on the week 10 fixtures, won't we?
Yeah, they were actually released during Judgement Night around 9 p.m, and I think with all the controversy and the stories that emerged on Judgement Night, it kind of got lost a little bit. But yeah, those fixtures have been released, so we'll cover that later on.
Josh, I know you like to bring us an interview every week on the Josh's Dartistry podcast. What have you organised for this episode?
I've got multiple this time, John. Obviously, I was out in Rotterdam, as I said earlier, and I spoke with a number of the winners and also a couple of losers from Rotterdam, so got some interesting insight there.
Cool. Look forward to listening to those a little bit later on. Neil, we'll also be talking about a few things outside of the Premier League. I believe we've had Players' Championship 7 and 8 taking place recently, haven't we?
Yep, look forward to the review of that. A couple of old favourites managing to win, and I think quite significant wins, both of them.
Josh, we've also got some news to bring regarding European Tour darts, haven't we?
Yeah, the European Tour kicked off last week in Leverkusen for the European Darts Open, so I'll be covering what happened there. And we're also in the midst of the German Darts Championship coming from Hildesheim. We're, like I say, day 2 as we record live.
Looking forward to that. Then we'll swiftly move it on to our odds section. Neil, I take it you'll be bringing us all the very latest odds and value.
Yeah, so we'll have a look at the Premier League matches for week 10. Probably look at the Premier League overall. And if I can, I'll bring some odds from this weekend's German tournament. It all depends though, because they are in play, so it's not always that easy to get the outrights whilst in play.
Talking of Premier League, Josh, before we move away from the Premier League in the show, I think we will be bringing people an update on our last man standing competition.
Yes, in Berlin we saw a host of players knocked out. We're down to 2 players now, so that'll be very interesting. Should come to a conclusion next week, I'd expect.
Excellent. Well, we'll elaborate on that a little bit later. A reminder of the rules and also what we're going to do should the competition come to an end for week 10. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Neil, welcome back for Challenge Josh.
Yes, obviously I was disappointed to miss the last episode. So
I think you got 13 out of 15 from me.
Which is, you've obviously been a bit too kind and a bit too generous.
That was my worry. I thought I was going to get criticised for that.
So we'll try and reverse that trend this evening.
Okay, after we've tortured Josh with some darting trivia.
Maybe that's a new name for it.
What? Torture Josh instead of Challenge Josh.
More applicable.
I like that. I'll have a word with Colin and see if he can do some music for Torture Josh. I imagine it'll be like a soundtrack out of some sort of horror movie or something with screams and stuff going on. That'd be good. Okay, so after we've tortured Josh, Josh, we'll be moving on to our In the News section, won't we?
Yeah, and as we've said, as we referenced earlier, John, plenty to talk about in the news this week.
We'll always finish the show, as ever, with our Q&A section. Josh, you put a shout out on social media, did you?
Yeah, I put a tweet out on Friday, John. We've got 4 or 5 questions coming in, all ranging different topics, so it should be quite an interesting one.
Lovely job, and that will conclude episode 14 of the show. So that's what we've got coming up, folks. As I said, thanks for taking the time to download us. You can find us on Apple iTunes, for those of you who use Apple products. Neil, if I'm an Android user, where can I find the show?
It is on the Stitcher app.
Lovely job. And Josh, if I don't use Stitcher or iTunes, where else can I find the show?
You can find the show on my YouTube channel, Josh's Dartistry, or you can also find it on the website, www.joshisdartistry.com.
Excellent stuff. Don't forget, you can also follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry, and you can also follow the Josh's Dartistry Facebook page, which is always updated with links to Josh's stories on his blog. So make sure you check that out, gentlemen. With all that said, episode 14. Here we go.
I feel happy. Won't you call me on the telephone? In the morning, won't you call me on the telephone?
Call the boys on 07739 738 329. That's 07739 738 329 and leave them a message.
Right then, Josh, let's get straight into the meat and drink of it. Premier League, we had Berlin before the doubleheader in Rotterdam, so let's talk Germany.
Yep, so for the second year in a row, the Premier League headed to the Mercedes-Benz Arena in Berlin. We kicked off with Gurney and Price playing Rob Cross. Real high-quality start to the evening. Cross was averaging 111 for some points. Dipped a little bit later on, but was too good for Price. Ran out a 7-4 winner, so very good win for Cross. Then we saw James Wade and Peter Wright duel it out in the second game of the night. We always thought this was going to be tight, and it proved to be so. Wright was 5-2 up, missed a host of doubles in the next 4 legs to grab a point and possibly even a victory, but then salvaged it in the last leg to grab a 6-all draw against Wade. Then we saw Michael van Gerwen take on Daryl Gurney. Now, Gurney had been enduring a bit of a difficult time in the Premier League, big 7-0 and 7-1 losses over the last couple of weeks prior to that. Was 2-0 down against Van Gerwen, came back to win 7-5, so a real big win for Super Jim.
Josh, I don't think I'm the only one that this is going to have affected, but that is the game that saw me booted out of the last man standing competition. I'd imagine that would be the same for many of the entrants that night.
Yep, you and I think 34 others, John. So
wow.
Unlucky.
Were you still in last man standing for Berlin, Neil? Oh no, you've been knocked out. Let me answer that for you.
I had, but my kids were knocked out the night of Berlin.
Your kids? Do we allow under 16s to take part in this competition?
It just gives me a second opportunity. So I think I had. Who did I?
You had Van Gerwen as well.
Did I?
Michael Smith then took on Menzel Sulevic. Josh.
Yeah, this was a bit of a surprise to me. I mean, Michael Smith produced his worst performance of the campaign so far. Just couldn't get going in any aspect. Averaged 85. Sulevic was very clinical and got better as the game ran on and ran out a 7-2 winner. So very impressive win for the Gentle, who's having a much better Premier League than last year.
Interesting that. I think you look at him and you look at Gurney Price, who are the two that really struggled. Even though Mensah played okay last year, this year much more solid performances from both of them. So interesting. And Smith's an interesting one because I think we all expected after a great year reaching the world final, we kind of expected him to come out of the traps firing, and I think he's been not bad. I know he had that injury and he had to have that minor operation, so not been as fluent as maybe we expected.
No, I agree. Like I say, I think we all expected him to be at least top 4, and he still could be because the league's very tight, but it's been hard work for Smith, and we haven't seen him post those ton-topping averages and rattling in 180s like we used to. So yeah, but very good win for Mensah. Like I say, he was unlucky last year, but his timing's been a lot better this year.
Sulevic and Price, Josh, definitely benefiting from a year's experience in the Premier League, aren't they?
Oh, definitely. I mean, obviously, Price won his first major last year. Sulevic was very consistent, reached the match play final, won a World Series event. I think for Price, always question marks because, like I say, he said he didn't enjoy last year's Premier League. He didn't want to be a part of it, but since winning the Grand Slam, he's kicked on, gone from strength to strength, and although he hasn't had the best last couple of weeks, he's still acquitted himself very well, and he's still in the top 4 picture.
Final game of the night, Josh, was of course the contenders match, Max Hopp versus Raymond van Barneveld.
Yeah, Max Hopp, the latest contender to enter the fray, started off well, hit an early 180, took out 104 to lead. Barney started off really well, averaged over 100 for the first 5 legs or so, then dipped a little bit, took out a brilliant 170 to go 5-3 up. Hopp was disappointing really, just couldn't get going, lacked the consistency, missed a couple of doubles here and there, and Barney ran out a quite convincing 7-3 winner in that one.
Neil, Barney managed to chalk his first victory of the campaign.
Yeah, and he played reasonably well. I think once he got some momentum going, after a bit of a slow start, he looked a bit more like his old self, and I think that had followed the Players' Championship, hadn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Where he'd reached the final against Adrian Lewis. So the signs were there that there was going to be a bit of a resurgence, but. We'll talk more on that shortly.
Josh, just going back to the Daryl Gurney win against Michael van Gerwen. Van Gerwen not having it all his own way. Obviously, the draw previously to Henderson means that we've seen 2 or 3 different people top the league table.
Sorry, didn't we sit here 2 or 3 episodes ago and say that Van Gerwen had targeted winning every game in the Premier League?
Yep.
And it's certainly not been that procession that he may have thought that it would be.
No, it hasn't. I mean, he's topped the league phase now for 6 years in a row, and he's looking to make it 7. I think with the absence of Anderson, and obviously there's no Phil Taylor anymore, Barney hasn't been particularly competitive like he has been in past Premier Leagues. I think he almost did the start, found it a little bit too easy, maybe got a little bit complacent. But as we're going to discuss later on, obviously Rotterdam, he rolled into the double-header. He lost both games last year, but he certainly made amends this year.
A real boost for Daryl Gurney as well. We were talking earlier before we went live about how tight the league's been, and Gurney found himself at nearing the bottom of the table, and all of a sudden he finds himself in 4th position after the results that we'll come on to. But that was a real shot in the arm for Gurney's Premier League tournament, wasn't it, Josh?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the week before that, he'd come back from 6-3 down to get a point against Peter Wright. So that was a big boost for him. But yeah, the weeks before that, he lost 7-1 to Cross and 7-0 to Wade. So his confidence must have taken a real hammering. But he also had a good run at a Pro Tour event, which we'll discuss later on. That gave him a little bit of a boost. To that, onto the game against Peter Wright, and then obviously Van Gerwen. He's beaten Michael in the Players' Championship final as well in November to win his second major. So he's won his last 2 against Michael, and not many can boast that sort of record.
Okay, well that's Berlin then. That's the results for Berlin. Let's move on to the double header in Rotterdam. Neil, the second time we've seen the...
Yeah, just before we get on to the darts.
Yeah.
Any issues with the travel, Josh?
I think Neil, you're going to need to elaborate on that for the list. Let me ask you a question, Neil.
Yeah.
You do a lot of travelling, obviously, as we've mentioned with work. Just coming back from business travel yourself. Name me some essentials that you would take on your travels, Neil.
Medication.
Yep.
Toiletries.
Yep.
Clothes. My phone. My phone charger. Money.
And just going back to your phone charger, when you're travelling in these foreign countries, is there anything else you need to make sure that your charger works properly?
Well, quite often you will need what's it called? An adapter. Yeah.
Josh, did you take an adapter to Rotterdam with you?
I didn't know. You have to laugh really, because it wasn't an issue in the press room, because luckily we had the plugs were all fine. But yeah, I was trawling around Rotterdam on Wednesday afternoon in a supermarket trying to talk English to Dutch people. They were looking completely mystified at me, but I managed to rectify the situation and get a Dutch phone charger.
And you found a 24/7 shop that was closed.
Yeah, ironic, isn't it, really?
I've just picked up my phone and gone to our WhatsApp group. Just for the benefit of the listeners, I'd just like to read the message that Josh posted on our WhatsApp group, and it reads as follows. This hotel is now this is at 2:15 in the afternoon on the Wednesday. This hotel is a disgrace. Plug sockets not compatible with UK chargers, so can't charge my phone or laptop. It could die before I get to the Ahoy Arena. They better have plugs there. Even the shop called 24/7 is shut. So, ladies and gentlemen, Josh flew all the way to Rotterdam and didn't take a travel adapter with him to make sure that his electronic devices work properly.
There's also a cracking Photoshop of Josh as the idiot abroad.
Yeah, I'd like that one. That was quite good.
Josh Pilkington, ladies and gentlemen. Josh Pilkington, yeah. So, Josh, it's been a while since you've travelled, though, isn't it, Josh? It's been a while
11 years, yeah.
11 years since you've been abroad, so maybe we're forgiven. Did you remember your passport, I take it?
I did, yes. Everything else was fine.
Okay, well, we couldn't let that little story slide, so apologies about that, but I'm sure the listeners found that hilarious. Let's move on to the results. Josh, talk to us about the darts, buddy. Where you go?
So the evening kicked off with Bergh and Price taking on Michael Smith. Both players really did need to try and get something from this game. Quite a nervy affair, lots of missed doubles, lots of breaks to throw, but Smith ran out a 7-5 winner, taking out a brilliant 90 on the bullseye after Price had missed a couple of darts to grab a point. And that was a huge result because that moved Smith 3 points clear of Raymond van Barneveld and on the verge of safety. Then we saw James Wade face Dimitri van den Bergh, who was the latest contender to enter the fray. Van den Bergh stormed into an early 2-0 lead. Wade struggled in the outset, and then they actually had a brief stoppage in play because Wade was complaining about a breeze on stage, and a number of players did complain about this throughout the couple of nights in Rotterdam. So they left the stage for a brief while, returned. Wade started to improve immeasurably, hit 7 180s. Van den Bergh took out a couple of brilliant finishes, 140 and 121. He missed one match dart to win it to become the first contender to register a win in this year's league. Ended up being a 6-all draw, but both players averaging over 100. Great game.
Do you know what? It absolutely amazes me. It's not the first time we've seen breeze issues. I remember a couple of years ago in the World Championships, Josh, there was an issue where players were complaining that there was a breeze drifting across the stage. You would have thought, Neil, that in this day and age they would have sort of ironed out any of those problems before the cameras were turned on. They went live and sorted any of those kind of situations out.
I think it's probably difficult because some of these arenas are so big and you've got so many entrants and exits that it only takes someone to go out and leave a door open.
It caused a bit of a draft.
Exactly. Was it the Worlds a couple of years ago, or was it at Butlins? I can't remember.
No, it was at Worlds, and it was involving James Wade again against Adrian Lewis in the World Championship semis.
I seem to remember you complaining about Barney one year that they stopped. That was a different. I think that was almost like a power cut in the arena. That was in Minehead due to the weather. Oh, okay.
That was against Peter Wright in the UK Open quarters, and Wright went on to beat Barney and win the tournament. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure they do what they can to prepare. But as I say, it only takes someone. Only takes an idiot abroad.
I have to download the theme tune to that, aren't I?
to leave a door open, and that's the consequences of it.
Neil, before we went live, we were just having a chat about this situation. You likened it to golf, and golfers having to adjust their swing or put more power or more spin or whatever on the ball, and you were trying to liken that to should darts players have the ability to adjust to the conditions?
Yeah, maybe that's a bit harsh because, as you rightly said at the time, golf is an outdoor sport, so there are varying conditions, and indoors you expect a fairly tranquil, uninterrupted flight for your dart. But these guys are very skilled, and whilst it's those that float the darts that were probably impacted by it, I'm sure they're quite used to throwing using sort of a different style. So the conditions are the same for everyone. So get on with it.
Fair comments. Josh, James Wade 2 draws on the bounce there, affecting his charge to the top of the table.
Yeah, I mean, the draw against Van den Bergh, I think he'll view as maybe a missed opportunity in the sense that he was playing a contender, but Van den Bergh played really, really well, and Wade awfully survived the match dart. And the previous week he was 5-2 down against Wright. So although it's awfully 2 draws, it's 2 points gained in my opinion for Wade. So he's in great form, and I think he's got a brilliant chance of reaching the top 4 for the first time since 2013.
Okay, Josh, move it on. Let's talk about Rob Cross versus Mensur Suljovic.
Yeah, well, Rob Cross taking on Mensur. Rob had lost his last 4 against the Austrian. He stormed into a 5-1 lead, hitting all 5 of his attempts at double, so it seemed like he was going to end that run of form. But an incredible turn of events. Suljovic won the last 6 legs to run out an incredible 7-5 winner. Cross missed 11 successive darts at doubles over the last 5 legs. And in the last 2 legs, Suljovic took out finishes of 136, followed by 120 to win it. So massive, massive win for Suljovic.
Yeah, it was a very impressive comeback, wasn't it, from Mensur?
Yeah, I think he's been really good again. As we said, he was a bit unlucky last year, and I think he's benefited from the experience. And he's a contender now, and I think he's proved, in previous major championships as well, that he can mix it with the best of them.
I noticed, Josh, from the Premier League weeks that I've watched, I have now we've discussed it on the show. I can't take my eyes off of it every time Mensur goes back to the table and does put the bit of chalk in of the fingers. Now, one of our listeners brought it up. Every time he plays, I can't help but look for it and watch it. It's sort of been distracting me now from the game.
Yeah, I mean, he has been much more methodical over the last couple of weeks. I've noticed in between visits in particular. I mean, the pace of his throw hasn't altered particularly, but he's taken a lot more time before visits, and I think it's certainly had a positive impact on his game. He's got some great results over the last couple of weeks.
It's that, and Rob Cross's, before he goes for the first shot at double, rubs his hand down his trousers.
Yeah, he's the same.
Lucky hand rub. Okay, moving on. Peter Wright was the... Well, it was an unfortunate loss, wasn't it? It was quite heavy, inflicted by Michael van Gerwen 7-1, Josh.
Yeah, 12 months ago, Peter Wright beat Van Gerwen in Rotterdam, but it was a role reversal this time. Wright, as we mentioned about the breeze factor, Wright is one of those players that Neil mentioned that does float the dart, and he really did struggle. Van Gerwen was typical MVG, really, completely relentless. Missed a dart for a whitewash win. It would have been the 11th in Premier League history. So Wright avoided that particular embarrassment, but yeah, big win for Van Gerwen, and obviously after Cross's defeat, that saw Michael return to the top of the table on legs difference.
Neil, with Peter Wright drawing his previous game, and as we'll come on to the second night in Rotterdam losing, not a good set of results recently for Peter.
No, I think he's probably just dipped below his level from the last couple of years. There was one outstanding performance against Raymond van Barneveld, where he was unplayable early to mid stages of that game. But those type of performances, I think, have been less frequent than they have been over the past couple of years. So, he was fairly well established in that top four, and now I think he's going to have to battle to keep that status.
Josh, do you fear for Peter Wright moving forward for the rest of the year?
I don't actually. I mean, he's had a poor last couple of weeks in terms of the Premier League results, but his form over the last month or so has improved significantly, I think. He's got a lot of money to defend. I think he's got 5 European Tour wins this year. That's all going to come off his ranking, so he could fall to as low as 7th or 8th by the end of the year. But I've seen signs in Peter's game recently where he's getting back to his best, that sort of level we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years. But it's the inconsistency that's played.
Yeah, he was brilliant against Barney.
Yeah, he was brilliant, and he was very good against Gurney. I think he averaged 103 against Gurney, although they drew. And he scored well against James Wade. So he has been improving over the last couple of months. It's just the inconsistency here and there that's prevented him from getting these results.
Final game of the night, Josh, saw the second 7-1 scoreline of the evening. Raymond van Barneveld versus Daryl Gurney.
Yeah, well, Raymond received an incredible reception from the Rotterdam crowd in his penultimate Premier League appearance on home soil. It was a really nervy start from both players. Gurney led 2-1. Barney missed a great chance to level. I think he was on double 9 and bust, hitting double 14. And from then on, Gurney seemed to grow in confidence, took out some very good finishes. 66 and 96 stuck out in my mind. And yeah, Barney, very poor by his standards, and Gurney, a very comfortable winner.
Neil, did you catch the Van Barneveld game?
I did. It was a scrappy affair, it really was, particularly in the early stages. But there was just no fluency to his game, and I think we touched on, he'd done better at the Players' Championship. He'd done better the week before against Hop. But it seemed to have gone backwards again both nights in Rotterdam. Yeah,
not the result Barney was looking for on night one in front of his adoring fans. And there was not much relief the following night on March the 28th on the Thursday as we return to the Ahoy Arena for Judgement Night, Josh. Tell us about that.
Yeah, obviously it was called Judgement Night, but it wasn't really, because obviously Raymond's result against Darryl saw him eliminated from the Premier League, so he's simply playing for pride in his final game. But yeah, the night kicked off with Daryl Gurney taking on Mensur Suljovic, both winners from the previous night, but it was Gurney who completed the Dutch double, winning 7-3 against Mensur, and it's probably one of the best performances we've seen from Daryl in this year's Premier League. He hit 6 180s, and in his previous 8 games he's only hit 16. So a marked improvement in that respect. Average 98, looked quite fluent, and that's 3 wins in a row for Super Chin, so real brilliant turnaround for him. Then we saw Peter Wright against Gurney and Price. Now, both players had lost the previous night, and it was a real big game for both. I think Wright obviously played poorly against Van Gerwen, and it was another nervy affair. Price started off well, 1-4-7 checkout. Wright took out a couple of great finishes to get back level and then lead 3-2, but Price hit 2 brilliant 11 darters at key points of the match. Also survived a couple of darts in the final leg to snatch a big win, 7-5 for Gurney and Price, his 3rd win of the league.
Neil, that win for Price moves him up the table into 6th position above Peter Wright, Michael Smith, and of course Raymond van Barneveld. So did his chances a lot of good with that win?
No, I think it was needed because I think he had dipped. I mean, he seemed to the issues with the DRA, I think had kind of spurred him on.
Yeah.
And his performances in the first, in January and February were very impressive. Not just at the Premier League, but outside of the Premier League as well. I think he won one of the Players' Championship events, Josh.
He won 2 back to back. Yeah.
He did. He won back to back. So but he had a dip, and I think it was very important for him to sort of break that and get back to winning ways.
Also, Neil, I think we've got to give him credit because I think a lot of the Dutch crowd must be Gary Anderson fans because Gerwin did get booed for most of both nights, didn't he?
He did, but I think what we've learnt with him is that he's quite a resilient character, and I think he's had times where he has allowed the crowd to get on his back and it affect him, but I think he's earned a lot of respect from people for the way that he has bounced back. But there's going to be times where he's going to be, we use the term pantomime villain. And I think he's much more mentally set to deal with it now.
Josh, you were there obviously in the arena. Was the booing very loud?
It was very audible, yes. But I think with Price, I spoke to him after the game, I think he's become accustomed to it now. He expects it everywhere he goes. And I think it motivates him. Like Neil says, he's a resilient character. I think it spurs him on, and it did against Peter Wright. It's a fair play to him.
But I've my respect for him has built over, the first 3 months of this year. And to the point where I wasn't a fan, and I actually quite like him now.
Yeah, I think you're not in the minority there at all. I think a lot of people are now big admirers of what Gurney and Price is achieving, and I think fair play to him. I think he's going to have a very good rest of the year. He's not defending too much money. I think come the end of 2019, we could see him in the world's top 4.
Yeah, you can put me in that bracket as well. He's really impressed me.
I thought you meant the world's top 4.
Yeah, you can put me in that bracket. I think I could hold my own.
No comment.
No, but I agree. He's certainly changed my opinion of him. I always knew he was a very good darts player, but I think yeah, he's changed a lot of people's opinion, including mine. Josh, let's move it on. Here we go with the contenders match. Rob Cross took on Jeffrey Deswan.
Yep, Deswan, the 9th and final contender to appear in this year's Premier League, had the perfect start. Obviously a 12-dart leg, then a 1-5-1 finish, was 3-1 up, averaging 110. Obviously Cross had lost the previous night to Silovic, so he showed a lot of character, Rob Cross. Hit 8 maximums in the match in total, and came back from 3-1 down to win 7-4. So a real big win for Voltage to get back to winning ways after the disappointment against Silovic.
I have to talk about Deswan. In the contenders matches, we've seen a lot of the crowds going wild. You know, fantastic walk-ons, great games, great emotion. The John Henderson one obviously sticks in the mind with the bagpipes playing and the crowd going mad. I'm going to be honest with you, Josh. Jeffrey Deswan looked a bit nonplussed by the whole thing. He didn't look sort of overly excited, or didn't strike. I don't know, maybe it was nerves or what, but he didn't strike me as sort of like, you know, really enjoying the moment.
I don't think that's the case. I mean, he's quite a cool, calm character, Deswan. I mean, he showed a bit of emotion when he took out the 1-5-1 checkout, and he hit a couple of big 180s, and he celebrated with the crowd. He's not the most animated of characters, but I think that's a big positive for him, because we've seen him beat the likes of Van Gerwen on the big TV stage. He doesn't become overawed by these moments, where some youngsters, they show the outpouring of emotion. The next visit them 45 or 60, it's to the detriment of their game. I think Deswan's quite a mature character, and I don't think it was a case of not enjoying it. I think it was just trying to keep his emotions in check.
Before we move on to the final 2 games of the night, let's just have a little roundup on the contenders' idea for this year, with Deswan's match being the last contenders match we're going to see in this year's Premier League. Let's start with you, Josh. Hit or miss for you, the contenders' idea?
I think it's been a big hit, personally. I mean, in terms of the results, obviously they haven't registered any wins. We've seen 4 draws, and 5 defeats. I think the overall performances have been very good. I think 6 of the 9 players, I read a stat the other day, have averaged over 96. I think the only 2 disappointing performances have really been Nathan Aspinall against Michael Smith, and Aspinall's a major champion, so you know we couldn't see that coming. And Max Hopp didn't really perform against Raymond, but we've seen so many of them perform. Chris Dobie, the first week, was brilliant against Mensa. John Henderson and that walk-on against Van Gerwen, that's going to live long in the memory. One of the best games of the first 9 weeks, that was. Obviously, Dimitri was brilliant against James Wade, got the draw. Steve Lennon and Deswan both played very well, were unfortunate to lose. And Glenn Durrant averaged over 99 against Gurney, but the Northern Irishman was just brilliant on the finishing department. So I think they played really well. It's given some of the youngsters a taste of the Premier League for the future, valuable experience, because there's nothing like the Premier League. Yes, the World Championships, obviously a massive tournament, but in terms of the crowds and the atmosphere, nothing compares, trust me.
Neil, thoughts on the contenders?
I wasn't keen. If I'm honest, I think it was a miss. I think not one winner from the contenders. There were high points. I thought the Henderson match with Van Gerwen was superb, but it didn't really do it for me. I'm someone that when I watch competitive sport at the highest level, I want to see the best players, and I want to see, you know, it done formally. And I think for me, and we'll come on to discuss the other issue in a minute, the Premier League is nothing more than an exhibition. Because
well, it is, isn't it?
Hmm?
It is an exhibition.
It is an exhibition. It's non-ranking.
It's the Premier League of dart, meant to have the best players in the world, and we're, you know, as I say, I wasn't keen.
For those of you who follow me on social media, and particularly on Twitter, it would come as no surprise to you that I haven't been a major fan. I've had chats with you, Josh, over the last couple of weeks, really, about it all. I've not enjoyed it overly, to be honest. Again, Neil mentions there that none of the contenders have managed to win a game. I get that it's probably down to the fact they don't have experience in the Premier League. My issue, Josh, is not the darts or the darts players, it's the level playing field. And I know we've discussed this on previous episodes. But I didn't enjoy it. I'm looking forward to returning to the normal format next year. My worry is, though, that they might think this has been a good thing to do, and we could see it being brought back next year.
I think there's a very good chance it could be, because I think overall, I think the majority of people have really enjoyed it. I mean, the only maybe issue I could see is in terms of the level playing field, which you mentioned. Obviously, one player's playing, for example, a Van den Bergh or a Glenn Durrant, and the other playing a Steve Lennon, who's a lesser-ranked player. Obviously, Luke Humphries is one I didn't mention. He was fantastic, by the way. I think he had the highest average, so sorry to Luke for leaving him out. He drew with Gurney and Price and Exeter. But I think the games have been very competitive on the whole. I think it's been one of the games I've been looking forward to, because sometimes the Premier League can become repetitive. You're seeing the same players playing the same people week in, week out, whereas the contenders aspect has freshened it up. I think they've played really well, and also I think you're being a bit harsh if you're expecting the contenders to win, because that's the reason they're contenders. They're looking to get to that next level.
You would expect one win at the very least. And I'm sorry, I don't buy this about, it's good experience of the Premier League. Some of those players have played at a very, very high level.
I said to you the other day,
semi-final of a world championship.
Yeah, I said to you the other day, John Henderson, he's 45. It's not like he's a young man, upcoming man who needs experience on a big stage.
You look at Mensah Suljovic and Gurney and Price last year. They were both obviously selected in the Premier League, and they were there as well. Suljovic was a major champion. Price obviously had reached a number of major TV finals and semi-finals, and they both really struggled. I think Gurney and Price got 2 points last year. He's now better off for the experience.
But for me, the big thing about the Premier League is this is a lot of travelling and every Thursday. So you're traveling, you're probably away from home 1 or 2 days. You're at home 1 or 2 days, and you're expected to compete at the top level week after week after week, and that adds its own pressure. These guys, it was a one-off. They're used to playing on the big stage. So, it was nice for them, but I'm not sure what it really adds.
I've heard, and Josh, you said the word yourself there, people talking about it being freshened up and something a bit different. I take that point on board, but, again, I always like to use the analogy of other sports, and football being one of my favourite sports. I don't see the Premier League needing freshening up. We're not inviting Celtic, or Rangers, Neil, to come down and play a few games in the Premier League just to mix things up. Neil and I, maybe we don't like change. The OCD in us doesn't like change, and we like things to be rigid and structured and formal, Neil. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, absolutely. For me, if this is a serious tournament, and I think based on the size of the crowds that we get,
the prize money involved, and the amount of coverage it gets on TV, it's got to be done properly. And for me, it's more about what's the best entertainment we can provide, rather than getting the best players out there. I don't think we're going to resolve this around this table, Josh, but I'm sure conversations will be taking place over the next few months in PDC headquarters on how it's fared this year and what the moves are for next year. I know it was caused by Gary Anderson's withdrawal, and it might not happen again, but I'm sure it's there as an idea, and if they want to do it again, they will do.
Yeah, like I say, I think overall, a lot of people I've spoken to, I think the reaction to it has been very positive. I mean, I think the big issue with the PDC, there was not one outstanding candidate who they thought, right, he can replace Anderson, he'll be the one. So I think that's what led them to make the decision they did, and I think they've acquitted themselves well. And I must admit, I wasn't sure at the start, and yes, they haven't got a win, but I do think they've acquitted themselves well. It's freshened it up, and it's been one of the matches I've always looked forward to the most every week.
Okay, let's move it on. Let's discuss the farewell to the Premier League of your man, Josh, Raymond van Barneveld. Talk to us.
Yes, it was a very emotional occasion for Raymond. We saw at the walk-on, he had tears in his eyes, really, and I think he had all his family there. His grandson was there to see him play for the very first time, and I think it was a case of him just trying too hard, and he really did struggle from the outset. I think when you're lacking in confidence and you're not playing your best, I think the last player you want to face is Michael van Gerwen, who is just relentless. There was no sentiment involved, as you'd expect from the world number one, the world champion. Barney missed, I think, 5 darts in the third leg to make it 2-1. Missed that, avoided the whitewash, hit a good 13 dart leg, but that was really the only high point for Raymond. Michael was brilliant, 101 average for him, ruthless in the doubling department, and yeah, big 7-1 win for Michael van Gerwen, and unfortunately 2 7-1 losses for Raymond on home soil.
Neil, big Raymond, he had tears in his eyes as he did his walk on, didn't he? And as he came down there, I think he gave his grandson his necklace. Yeah. Took it off and gave it to his grandson. And say what you like about Barney and his recent form, but you can understand there not being a dry eye in the house for some people, Neil.
No, I mean, he's obviously a legend of the sport. It's in his home country, and you can really understand the emotion. But being in that emotional frame of mind, it's not always a good place to go and then compete against the best player in the world. So it was always going to be hard, and you can see, I think he was averaging in the 70s at one point.
Yeah, he was.
In the early legs, sometimes emotion is great and it brings the best out of people, but I think he was, he was struggling to hold back the tears, and as I say, when you're playing the ruthless world number one, it's not going to be easy.
I think a lot of fans had kind of hoped. I think their hope for Raymond was obviously he played in Rotterdam 4 times before that, and he'd never lost. He'd beaten Van Gerwen last year, beaten Anderson, and it always seemed to bring the best out of him. But I think, as you say, sometimes when you're playing in front of your home fans, the expectation, the pressure weighs on you. And I think if it had been in, say, Belfast or Dublin, you wouldn't have had that distraction. It'd be more focused on the game itself. So
but it's not the same Barney as of even 12 months ago, is
no,
it?
it hasn't. I mean, his form. I think he beat Michael in the World Series in November in a really good game. I think since then he hasn't really produced a top performance on television that is, like I say, that you'd associate with a player of Barney's standings. It's been a disappointing campaign for him from start to finish, unfortunately.
Must have been difficult for Van Gerwen. Obviously, he's playing a guy who he's watched, through many years growing up, the top of his game, and probably a bit of an idol of Michael's. I'm sure he is.
And he's World Cup partner.
World Cup partner, but then having to maintain the professionalism to get up on stage and do a professional demolition job on Barney and be so focused on just getting the win and not being dragged into the emotion of the night. That couldn't have been easy for Michael Van Gerwen.
No, it couldn't, John, but I think that's why he's the world number one. He's an ultimate professional. I think we saw that on the Oki. He was absolutely ruthless. Brilliant performance. Celebrating like, it was 0-0 even when he was 4-5-0 up. I think that's obviously showing the ruthless nature of Van Gerwen, but I think he also showed his class after the game in the words and the respect he showed to Raymond. I think that's why he's such a great ambassador for the sport. So fair play to Michael. He did a great job.
Josh, you were obviously in the room. Tell us what the atmosphere was like for that walk-on.
It was unbelievable. It was spine-tingling. Like I say, there wasn't... I mean, Barney himself was overcome by it. Obviously, he had all his family and friends there. The crowd were just going mad throughout the game, to be fair. Even at 6-1 down, the crowd were just roaring him on as if he was 6-1 up. So it was incredible to be there. I think it just shows what a legend he's been for Dutch darts, the reception he's got. And it was almost like a passing of the torch, really, wasn't it? I mean, we know Michael's the world number one. He has been the best player in Holland for the last number of years. But obviously Barney's farewell in Holland against Van Gerwen, it was really quite poetic, really, wasn't it? It was.
Josh, just before we move on to the final game of the night, let's just have a quick chat. Staying on the Barney subject, obviously there was an interview that took place after the game on the stage. I know Barney addressed the crowd in his native tongue of Dutch. There was interviews that have obviously taken place backstage, of which you were part of, and we're going to hear your interview with Barney straight after the game. But there was a lot of confusion as to what was going on. Messages were being put out on Twitter and social media about, Barney's decided to knock it on the head now rather than carry on for the rest of the year up to the World Championships. Then, and a couple of days afterwards, we're hearing that, that might not now be the decision, and statements are coming out from his manager or his agent. A lot of confusion surrounding Barney's future after the game, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah, it was absolute chaos, really, wasn't it, in the preceding hour after the game or so. I mean, obviously, it's such an emotional occasion, and I think we all know that Raymond, last November, announced his retirement for the end of the 2019 season following this year's World Championship. I just think the emotion of the occasion got to him, really. He was so disappointed, not only with the results, but the way he played. Because we know he's so much better than that, and he had his whole family and his fans there, and he just felt he let them all down. He was so desolate in the press conference when I interviewed him earlier, and I wasn't amazed when I got told that he said, that's it, I'm retiring with immediate effect. But I think you see it in football, you see it in all sports. In the heat of the moment, when they're interviewed straight after a game, emotions are running high, they're maybe not thinking clearly, and I think obviously that's what prompted him to say, right, that's it. Too much pain. I want to call it quits now. But I think he slept on it. He said at the start of the year he knew it wasn't going to be easy. It's going to be small steps, but he wants to get to that World Championship one final time and have a shot of competing on the Alexandra Palace stage for one more time. And from reaching his Players' Championship final the other week, he's in a good position to do so. So I think when he slept on it, woke up the next morning and thought, I've still got something to give. And although the atmosphere was brilliant in Rotterdam, it would be a shame to have seen him gone out on such a low note, really, in terms of the performance. So yes, Raymond's manager did come out that night and say, listen, he's going to sleep on it. Then we heard on Friday morning a statement from Raymond via the PDC saying he's going to carry on until the rest of the year and obviously retire as planned after this year's World Championship.
Neil, what did you make of the media furore after the match?
Yeah, I think it was pure emotion. I think Wayne Mardle, to be fair to him, called it at the time that it might not be the case that he would retire with immediate effect. It's always best to sleep on these things, and I'm sure he's got a lot of commitments with his sponsors and everything else. So it's been a tough time. I was critical of his inclusion. I don't think it's done him any favours. So whilst people were pleased to see him in there, I think it's probably had a negative effect on him in terms of his confidence. That hasn't helped him whatsoever. And I also think that when and you announce that you're going to retire, and you kind of know that you're winding down, does that take a bit of an edge off your game? It may well do. And I kind of understand it, you say it's not going well, what's the point in carrying on? So I kind of understand it. I think he's come to the right decision. Let's see if he can get to the Worlds and bow out on the big stage.
Josh, I made the point to you earlier. I did the comparison with Phil Taylor's last year on the circuit. Taylor was still enjoying really good success in his final year, getting all the way to the World.
Well, I think they're different characters.
Of course they are.
And I think
it's different circumstances, because obviously with Taylor, he was still in the top 8 of the world at that point, whereas Barney is obviously falling out the top 32 at the start of the year, so he's having to qualify for every tournament, whereas Taylor was guaranteed.
But I think probably Barney has a lot more self-doubt, and he's a lot more self-critical than Taylor would be.
Yeah, the question I was going to ask, do you think he feels a bit frustrated that, I don't think he expected to win, 5 majors in his final year, but perhaps it wanted a little bit more success than he's been able to offer, even if it's just winning games and giving the crowd that have come to see him in his final year something to celebrate.
Oh yeah, we've seen him on stage or after the game in a number of Premier League games. Say he's so frustrated because in the practice room he's playing really well, he's full of confidence, he gets up on the big stage, it's just not happening for him. I think before the Premier League he was quietly confident of having a really good year. He admitted he was quite fortunate to have a wild card. He thanked the PDC and Sky and said they could have easily left him out. I think he felt he had a point to prove this year and he's really desperate to do so. But hindsight's a great thing, and it just hasn't worked out for Raymond. But he can now have a few weeks out of the spotlight, try and focus on the Pro Tour, the European Tour. He's qualified for another event in April for that. So hopefully he can try and get his head down, get his head set, relax a little bit and focus on the rest of the year now.
Okay, Josh, last match of the night was James Wade taking on Michael Smith.
It kind of got lost really in all the media furore after the Barney Van Gerwen game, but obviously Michael Smith missed double 12 for a 9-darter in the very first leg of the game. We were interviewing Barney at that point and we heard the cheers from the crowd, so we knew something was happening. But yeah, missed double 12 for the 9-darter, was 3-1 up, playing really well, but then Wade did what Wade usually does, came back with a vengeance, won 6 of the last 7 legs to run out a 7-4 winner. Big win for Wade and his second successive ton plus average in Rotterdam, so very good week for the machine.
Neil, second defeat for Michael Smith in 3 weeks, and looking at the league table now, obviously Barney's gone after Judgement Night. Michael Smith finds himself 8th.
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier that it hasn't been the explosive Michael Smith that we know, and he hasn't, for whatever reason, as I say, he had his minor injury. He's not really kicked on since the World Championships. I do think it will happen, because I think once he's a player that once he gets into form and finds his rhythm, he's going to be very, very difficult to beat, and it will happen at some stage, but maybe too late for this year's Premier League.
Josh, can Smith get back into the top 4, or do you think it's a little bit of a mountain to climb now?
I think he's got a very good chance of doing so if he can rediscover his form. He finished second last year, just behind Van Gerwen. He won his first 4 or 5 games last year, so we've seen him in the past. He's capable of rattling off 4 or 5 wins on the bounce if he gets his form right. But he's lacking a little bit of confidence and consistency at the moment. But it's very important. He's got Peter Wright next week in Belfast. I think that's a must-win game for him. If he loses that, he could be 6 points off the playoffs, and then it's a real big ask for him.
Just to give you an update of how the league table stands, Michael Van Gerwen is currently top on 13 points, closely followed by Rob Cross in 13 points. James Wade 3rd, Daryl Gurney 4th, Mensur Sulovic 5th, Gurney and Price 6th, Peter Wright 7th, and Michael Smith 8th. Josh, the top 4 at the moment: Van Gerwen, Cross, Wade, and Gurney. Do you see it staying that way, or do you think we're going to see lots of people swapping before we get to finals night?
I can see the top 3 staying the same, John. I mean, Van Gerwen and Cross have been very, very good so far. Wade is having a brilliant Premier League. He hasn't reached the playoff since 2013, but I think he's got a brilliant shot at doing so. The 4th spot for me is up for grabs. I mean, Gurney's had a great couple of weeks to throw himself from elimination danger into a top 4 spot. Price has had a difficult period, but now came out of that with a win against Peter Wright. We've seen Snakebite being very inconsistent. Sulovic is playing well. We know what Smith is capable of, so it just depends on the next few weeks. I think that 4th spot is up for grabs, but I see the top 3 down the same.
Neil, despite my criticisms of the contenders this year, what I have enjoyed about the Premier League is it's been so competitive, particularly at the top of the table. We've seen the top spot occupied by various different people and seems to swap not just week by week, but sometimes game by game. Yeah,
and I think that's been one of the refreshing things this year, that it's not been a procession for Michael Van Gerwen. Everyone is in with a shout, and as you said, we've seen from game to game the lead at the top of the table change. So in any sport, in any kind of competition, you don't want to see one person dominating. You want to see competition. It's healthy, and I think we've seen that.
Josh, before we move on to Week 10 fixtures, Belfast SSE Arena, April 4th, let's have an update on the last man standing competition that we mentioned at the top of the show. Where are we currently with that?
We've now got 2 people left in, John. I'm going to send a tweet out over the weekend. We had 3 people prior to the final night in Rotterdam. 1 went out because they picked Michael Smith to win.
Right.
Obviously, Smith lost 7-4 to James Wade. So we've got Danny Turner and Jordan Sanders left in. We've had 5...
Not another Jordan. We've already had one Jordan win it.
We could have another one. I mean, they've picked 5 players now, so they're limited for choice. So I'll be tweeting out people left in and who they've picked so far. So.
And I think that's an achievement, to be honest, to pick, this is going to be round 6. Because we do this for football as well. We obviously do it at the cricket club, and I think we're in round 7 for that. And there's still a lot of people still involved. I think it's a lot more difficult with the Premier League darts than it is with the Premier League football. So well done to those guys.
Okay, so bearing in mind we've got 2 players left in the last man standing competition. Josh, do you want to inform them of the upcoming fixtures for next Thursday?
Yep, and obviously now we've lost the contenders element. That doesn't have any impact now, so it's just 4 games every week from now. So, starting off week 10 in Belfast is Mensur Suljovic against James Wade. Then we have Michael Smith taking on Peter Wright, Rob Cross taking on home hero Darrell Gurney, and then Michael van Gerwen takes on Gurney and Price in the evening's finale.
Excellent. So as Josh said, if you can get your tweets, your picks for that night into Josh as soon as possible, use the hashtag JDPLMS, get them in. And who knows, Josh, we may have a winner come Thursday night and another mug to send off to a listener.
There's a very good chance of it, John, because like I say, they've picked 5 players now, so they're limited for choice. I think both have picked Van Gerwen as well, which is obviously usually the obvious pick. So I'm not sure who they're going to go with, but yeah, we could very well see a winner this week.
Excellent stuff. Neil, should we get a winner this week, I think we'll be in a position to relaunch again, will we?
Yeah, these guys have done well. Assuming we get a winner, we'll have another 6 weeks plus finals night.
Yeah.
So, yeah, even if it goes beyond finals night, we'll come up with some sort of
we'll find a way of ending it and getting a winner, won't we? So
we'll find a way to help me win it. Yeah.
So keep your eyes on at Josh's Dartistry on Twitter for all your latest news on the last man standing competition. I've quite enjoyed it. It's been good fun. Bit of interaction for you, the JDP listener, and let's do it all over again when we get a winner, Josh.
Yeah, sounds good to me, John.
Okay, anything else, guys, that you want to bring up Premier League related?
No, I think we've exhausted all avenues there, John, I think.
Okay, that is your Premier League roundup. You're listening to the Josh's Dartistry podcast. Don't forget you can check us out on Facebook, the Josh's Dartistry page. You can also follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry. And you can also go to our website, www.joshisdartistry.com, for all the latest news, blogs and information on the world of darts. Don't forget you can also call us and leave us a message on our voicemail box. That's 07739 738 329. That's 07739 738 329. Call our voicemail box, leave us a message, leave us a question, and we may play it on the show. Now back to the show.
This is Dan Dawson, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, lads, before we move away from the Premier League completely, as we mentioned at the top of the show, Josh, you were in Rotterdam. You were there to experience the crowd, the atmosphere, and you were also backstage and got the opportunity to speak to a number of the players straight after the game. What I find interesting about that is when you interview a player, a lot of the interviews you bring to us on the Josh's Dartistry podcast, you speak to them by phone, and it's a sort of a Monday or a Tuesday afternoon when you speak to them. With these interviews that we're going to play, and they're quite short, they're very short snippets, but it's quite raw, isn't it? Because it's straight after the game, and they might be in a sort of slightly different mindset than if you were speaking to them on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, definitely, John. I think as we referenced earlier with Barney's retirement sort of interview, I think he was very raw emotion after the game. He was raw emotion in my interview with him. Gurney and Price is always great value after a game. I think all the players are. Like I say, they've just come off the stage, heat at the moment. the euphoria of winning, the disappointment of losing. It's always great to get that immediate reaction.
Okay, right, let's have a quick listen then. The first interview we're going to play is Josh's interview with Dimitri van den Bergh. That was for night 8, wasn't it, Josh? The first night in Rotterdam when he faced James Wade.
Yep, indeed.
Let's have a listen.
Thank you very much. So Dimitri, congratulations. Great game. Obviously 8 breaks to throw. It was a real topsy-turvy game. So many big checkouts. Just sum up how you're feeling after that game.
Like I said before, I'm a little bit disappointed because of the chances that I've created. I could have had more, but at the end of days, I was in the Premier League, I was there in the night, so I've got to do what I always do, look to the positives and work with it to the next time. I have a bright future behind me, it just keep evolving the way I'm playing. So, yeah, I'm starting to think positive more and more and more every second I have.
And obviously it's a fantastic crowd tonight, 10,000 people. What an amazing venue, stage to make your Premier League debut, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it was unbelievable. Every time when the crowd started singing, especially in my favour, every little bit of hair on my body stood up. It was unbelievable. I enjoyed it every moment, definitely.
This must give you the belief and also the hunger that you can become like a permanent fixture in the Premier League for years to come, mustn't it?
I believe in myself, that's for sure. And I definitely want to be one of them players. So the road is long, but I'm on the right way.
You've had a decent start to the year. You reached your first senior Pro Tour final last month. Obviously a very good performance here. You must feel like you can take a lot of positives and encouragement from the start to the season you've had.
Yeah, I see myself making steps, that's for sure. Like, I think I'm number 14 at the moment at the Player Championship ranks, which is the highest I've ever been. But it also tells me that I am capable. So I just need to keep going what I'm doing and bring it on. That's all I can say. Bring it on.
Perfect. Congratulations, Dimitri. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Josh, Dimitri sounded in quite a positive mood there after his experience with the Premier League.
Yeah, like I say, he had a great game, over 100 average, 2 ton-plus finishes. He's had a good start to 2019, so plenty of reason to be positive for him.
Neil, do you think that will give Dimitri the shove he needs to carry on climbing the ranks in 2019?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've spoken about Dimitri on a number of episodes before, saying he's someone with great potential, world youth champion, has performed well in tournaments, and I think once he gets a bit more consistency in his game, he'll be one that will become a Premier League regular, I think.
Josh, on the first night in Rotterdam, you also spoke to Michael Smith, didn't you?
Yep, obviously Marco had a big win over Gurney and Price that moved him 3 points clear of safety, so a massive win for Bully Boy.
Okay, let's listen to what Michael Smith had to say.
You mentioned there you were struggling throughout the game, but is that positive that you were able to dig in and get a result?
Yeah, I think Dan Dawson tells me every week I'm doing an interview. 2 years ago I lost out, 3 years ago I just threw away, not like a spoiled kid, and just I had to dig deep. Listen, 4 years ago or whatever it was just me and that's all it was, and it's easy to throw the towel in because I'm only disappointed myself. But I've got a wife at home now, I've got kids at home, people depending on what I do here because it's my job, living, raising it is hard. I can't afford to give up because if I do give up, we all have to give up as well.
Obviously going into tonight you're only 1 point above the drop zone. Does that add extra pressure on this game?
2 points, but I didn't even bother. It kept coming up on the screen, the practice room, and it said it like I needed 3, so I needed 2, and then it said Barney like 150 to 1. It never showed what he needed, but I just knowing if I can get a point, 2 points, it puts the pressure on him. And as soon as he come in tonight, he shook me hand and said, have a good one tonight. And that was his little way. He did it last week as well, trying into my head, but just if I can be myself, and then I win most matches I've learned.
And obviously you got to the final last year, it's a very tight table. You must feel a couple of good results and you've got a great chance of getting that top 4 again.
If I win tomorrow, I'm on 9 points, I think. And I think 4th's on 8, so I'm only a point behind 4th now after only winning 3 matches this season. But it's still there. If I manage to get through, I've still got 6, 7 matches left. If I can win 4 of them, 5 of them, I could be up there.
Cool. Well done, Mark.
Thank you, mate. Cheers, sir.
Michael Smith there, Josh. What comes through with Michael Smith all the time, not just in that interview, but family plays a big part in his life, doesn't it? He mentioned it at the top of the interview there and said that, his family and the people that depend on him are the reason that, he keeps plugging away and is so determined to do well in the game of darts.
Oh yeah, he's so family orientated, and I know on that night it was his son Junior's 5th birthday, so he was desperate to win for his son. He did so, he did him proud. I think he's matured so much as a player, Marcus. If he referenced a few years ago, he might have thrown in the towel then when it wasn't going his way, but he dug deep. It was a scrappy game, but he obviously got a big 2 points. And although he lost on Thursday, he's still in with a chance of reaching the playoffs. Yeah,
he mentioned his son's birthday. I saw on Twitter that a few of the darts players, Josh, they'd recorded videos and sent them over to his son to sort of, celebrate his birthday.
Yeah, it's a lovely touch there. I mean, the darts family, it's a great family. All the players get on really well. There's a great camaraderie between them. And I think there was a great celebration posted on Michael's Twitter from his wife, I think, of his son celebrating when he got that 7-5 win. So, yeah, great moment for them.
Neil, we sounded in quite buoyant mood. Any win over Gurney and Price is to be congratulated. Sounded in buoyant mood despite, still finding himself near the foot of the table at that time.
I think he's probably... I think Josh used the word maturity. I think he's probably realising that he's maturing as a player. And these experiences that he has had in the past are now helping him in challenging situations that he finds himself in. So, yeah, that's only going to be good for him going forward if he's a bit mentally stronger than maybe he has been in the past. Interesting what he said about Barney as well. That there seem to be some mind games going on.
Okay, Josh, the final person you spoke to in the first night of the Ahoy Arena was Daryl Gurney.
Yeah, obviously Daryl just beat Raymond 7-1. Upset the home crowd really with that win. But yeah, great to speak to Daryl after that game.
Okay, let's have a listen.
How tough was it playing in that sort of atmosphere against Raymond in his own country?
Yeah, I know. Thank God I've been here last year and seen it and see how they go on, because I think if this was my first year, I probably wouldn't have played as well under that pressure of going for doubles and stuff whenever, obviously they were me, but not in a bad way. I mean, obviously I want Raymond to do well. So, yeah, no, just as long as I had darts at double, didn't really miss them. Took me time instead of rushing and getting nervous and getting a bit of a shake. Yeah, no, glad to get in should have been 7-5. I'm happy just to get 2 points. I know he loves Sweet Caroline, so I just give him a wee look in the lock on to see if he wanted to join in. And just because obviously sometimes, because obviously he needed a lot of points, he wanted to be concentrated and focused on the game. Sometimes people just say no, concentrating. But no, fair play to him for joining him. Obviously, that's probably my best atmosphere on a walk-on, obviously on the stage. Because I know Belfast, I think it's got 10,000, but we've still got 14 here. So yeah, we've got 14,000 Dutch people singing Sweet Caroline. I enjoyed it immensely.
Were you surprised by how poorly Raymond played tonight? Because he'd never lost in Rotterdam before tonight.
Yes, only for one reason, is because every time he comes here, he becomes super Raymond and he beats whoever you put in front of him. But I think there was a breeze, as I says in the other interview, there's a breeze on the stage. And my darts were blowing everywhere, and I think Raymond's is 21 grams and I'm 23s. So his darts maybe got affected more. So for that reason, yeah, because obviously I don't know if he played with heavier darts in previous years to make these darts go more direct into the treble. But I know both of us struggled with the win tonight. Mines were 1 second going straight, and then I think there was one leg I started off with an 83. I went right on the top wire. I said if I touch that, I'll be fine. And I touched the dirt, and the wind just blew it sideways, and I ended up hitting an 83. So it was just one of them things that I had to deal with. Every player came back says there was a wind on the stage, and obviously I was fearful because last year I played here on the Wednesday. I was 5-0 down. And my darts are probably the longest out of everybody, so they go worse in the air than anybody else. So yeah, no, I think that if Raymond used maybe a heavier dart tomorrow and Thursday, I think he'll probably play better. But his darts are that light, there's just both of us in the same boat, and they're blown everywhere.
Yeah, and just finally, obviously, you're still 8th in the table, but you're only 2 points off the playoffs. It's so tight, and you must be confident. You had a really good second half of the season last year. You must be confident of having another good push.
Yeah, I mean, I've said to everybody in the Premier League, I said once I get away from the relegation, I always play better, because I haven't got nothing to worry about then. And they always says, oh well, obviously that's in your head. But then again, I've got through it again. I'm in the latter stages. And now I can hopefully push on beat whoever I've got in the next few weeks, and finish in the top 4, and hopefully for the first time play in the O2 in front of that great crowd in the last 4.
Perfect. Congratulations, yeah.
Cheers.
Well done, mate.
Neil, listening to Daryl Gurney there talking about the breeze on stage that we've already mentioned, I found it interesting that he was saying about how, you know, one person using 21 gram darts and one person using 23 gram darts, and obviously the heavier dart being able to cope with the breeze conditions a lot more than the 21 gram dart.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that, at the highest level of the sport, such fine differences can have a big effect. You know, I'm sure if you held a 21 gram dart and you held a 23 gram dart, you wouldn't necessarily notice too much of a difference.
Yeah.
So, it's like at the pinnacle of every sport, the finest things can make a big difference.
Yeah, I wonder how many of the players turned up on the Thursday night with perhaps a heavier dart to try and counter
Javelins.
that. Yeah, absolutely. Josh, it was interesting. Also, Gurney talking about the walk on, said it was one of the best walk on and atmospheres he's ever experienced in darts, and to be up there on stage and to get Barney to join in with Sweet Caroline, it was quite a touching moment, wasn't it?
Oh, it certainly was, John. Yeah, I mean, obviously it was quite funny, really, because obviously as Daryl, before his entrance, when he was stood there and the music came on, he was booed. But by the end of it, they were all singing along to Sweet Caroline. We always see Barney singing along to Gurney's Walk On. It was great to see him join in. We also saw Mensur Sudovic the following night join in with Daryl, but Mensur didn't know the words. It was quite comical, really.
He hummed a bit, I think, and
he was waving his arms
best
around, but he didn't know what he was meant to be singing.
How can anyone not know Sweet Caroline? I don't care what country you're from. How can you not know Sweet Caroline?
I don't think it's in Mensur's top 10 on Spotify somehow.
Not on his playlist. Okay, let's move it on to night 2, Josh. You were still there in the press room. Well, I say still there. I take it you went back to the hotel after night 1. You didn't stay.
I did, yeah, and I used my Dutch phone charger to keep me going overnight.
Was the 24/7 shop open when you got back?
I didn't check, actually, Neil, funnily enough.
So you were still present in the media room come night 2, and I believe you spoke to Gurney and Price, didn't you?
Yep, after his big 7-5 win over Peter Wright, a couple of big finishes, and obviously only his second win since week 1, so big win for the Iceman.
Right, let's listen in.
Congratulations, mate. You've been playing awfully brilliantly in 2019, but the last few weeks you've lost a lot of tight games. How important was that to get over the line today?
Yeah, I think I've had a lot of bad luck as well. Not my own fault. I'm missing doubles here and there, and people taking really good big shots out against me, especially in the European with Michael. But I would go for a 17 and hit a big 2. Those are the things you got to hit. But against people like that, when you've never beaten them, it's tough. But like I said, people don't realise I'm still a novice in this game. I've only been playing 4 or 5 years. So.
And obviously it's your first time in Rotterdam this year. Just how did you find the experience and the atmosphere?
Yeah, the atmosphere, the stage is brilliant, but I played in the World Series in Dubai, and it's probably a little bit more windy up there today. So in Dubai, it's outside. It's the same for both players. Everybody says that, but not everybody throws a dart the same. Some people throw it quite firm. Some people lob a dart like Raymond does, but it's not the same up there for 2 players, and it can be very difficult.
And it's so tight in the Premier League table now, but you're back to winning ways. You must be confident of trying to get to top 4 spot come the end of the season. Yeah,
at the beginning, before Premier League started, I knew I had the game in me to get to the top 4. It's just which game I bring week in, week out. And at the beginning of the Premier League, it was not my best game, but towards the top of my game. Now the last couple of games I haven't played that well, but today I've got a win and I'm still in contention for the top 4.
And you're used to having the crowd against you a lot of time, but obviously Cardiff in a couple of weeks, you must be looking forward to that.
It wouldn't surprise me if they boo me as well. No, it's going to be good. Honest, there'll be a few boos. I think people just do it now just for when my music comes on, they just jump on the bandwagon and do it for the sake of doing it, and then it just goes. So just part of the furniture now, I think.
Well done, Gurney. Congratulations, mate.
Josh, nice to hear Gurney and Price there mention the fact that he's still making mistakes in the game, but acknowledging that he's only been at this level of darts for 5 or 6 years, and he doesn't expect himself to be the perfect player, and he's still got things to learn, and so it's nice to hear him sort of accept that rather than beat himself up expecting perfection every night.
Yeah, definitely. He's got a great attitude, John. I think he's shown great resilience, as Neil mentioned earlier in the show, to kind of combat the crowd and the DRA controversy. I think he's a realistic character, and he's got a winning mentality, which he's developed throughout this Premier League now. And He's had a tough couple of weeks. He needed to beat Peter Wright. He did so. It was also great to hear him have a little bit of a joke about the Cardiff crowd in a couple of weeks. Obviously coming back home in Wales, but he's still expecting a couple of boos, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, Neil. Gurney and Price, and he probably still gets some boos from his hometown fans. I can't imagine that. I'm sure they'll be right behind him in Cardiff.
I'd be surprised if they're not. I think, as I said, I think his popularity is probably growing, and I think we'll see some support for him that night.
Yeah, and good to see that even though Josh he's in 6th place, he still feels he can push for that top 4 spot.
Well, definitely, it's so tight. Like I say, a couple of wins, and he's firmly back in that top 4 picture. So it's going to be so competitive now. He's had a brilliant start to 2019, a little dip over the last couple of weeks, nothing significant. But it's just about missing doubles over the last few weeks, which you referenced there. So if he can sort that element of his game out and improve his finishing, he's got every chance with his scoring powers up there with the best of them.
Josh, you were well and truly in amongst it all when it was all going off after the Barney game and the retirement announcements and the interviews, and you managed to grab a few words with Barney, didn't you?
Yeah, I must admit, I was sitting in the press conference, John, waiting for Michael van Gerwen. I think we all were. We were astonished to see Barney even come in. So yeah, I got a very quick word with Raymond, but it was a very kind of desolate RBB we spoke to.
Okay, let's have a listen.
Ray, commiserations, we can see how disappointed you are, but you must be proud of the reception you got. It shows just what an incredible legend you've been for Dutch darts.
Yeah.
You mentioned there how disappointed you are, but you reached the Pro Tour final a couple of weeks ago. You must
So?
the game is still there, is it not?
Pro Tours, no one says. People see you on the big stage, and then you see you got beat 2 times 7-1, and that's what people think about. I'm not good enough anymore. I'm not good enough to be involved in the Premier League. So what can I say? I can continue this. I'm not on one major tournament for the rest of the year, so I can't make plans because I don't know if I qualify for them. After a bad World Championship, I'm 30th in the world at the moment. And do I want this? I don't know. Do I want this Spain every single week? Because this is what it is. Apart from you guys seeing this fantastic crowd, because they are. But to me, it's just a 7-1 loss. Right. Yeah.
Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry.
Josh, quite a raw interview there straight after the game, getting the opportunity to speak to Barney, and I think it's fair to say that at the start of that interview he could be described as a man of very few words, really.
Yeah, we're used to seeing Raymond Offley in his interviews, usually, especially after a victory. He's euphoric and he's full of the joys, but he was very downbeat. And I think when you hear that interview, you can kind of understand the retirement announcement that followed. Offley, I know he's since retracted it, but he's very downbeat there, struggling to find any positives, which I suppose you would do after the performance he produced. But he's always taken defeat very personally. He's a 5-time world champion. He's a winner. He's used to great success, and he was just so disappointed to perform like that in front of his home crowd.
Neil, you could really hear the pain in his voice in that interview, couldn't you?
Yeah, particularly at the start of it, and I think it goes back to my point about Barney and Taylor being very, very different characters. You often see on stage Barney when he's not playing well, it visibly gets to him, and he almost looks to be giving up at times, and he's clearly suffering from a lot of self-doubt and beating himself up. Whereas with Taylor, you would never, you'd get a feisty interview,
yeah,
but it would never be questioning his ability. Taylor always thought that he was the best player on the planet, regardless of what was happening in terms of results. So very raw, emotional. It can't be easy when you've been a world champion and you've won multiple major tournaments to be struggling and to find form. And as I say, I think announcing his retirement a year ahead and knowing that he's on wind down may have had an impact.
Neil, it would be very easy to blame Barney's mood in that interview there on his performance on the stage, but perhaps it was just the interviewer that he was agitated by. What do you reckon?
Well, Josh sounded like he was cowering away towards the end of the interview.
How did you feel, Josh? Obviously, you've spoken to Barney before, and I'm sure it's been happier times when you have spoken to him before. How did it feel to sort of be in the eye of the storm with your darting hero when he was not really in the best of places?
It was tough. Like I say, I wasn't expecting him to come in. I think we're all sort of taken aback because he didn't originally come on stage for a Sky interview. He had to go backstage and compose himself before coming back on stage. He was so disappointed. It's very tough, like I say, when you've suffered a defeat like that. So it was tough to see Raymond in that sort of state, so downbeat. But hopefully now he can pick himself up and focus on the rest of the 2019.
Okay, well, Josh, well done for getting those interviews. It's really good to sort of hear you go behind sort of, enemy lines, if you like, and get those immediate reactions after the game and get the sort of real feel and the rawness of those interviews. So we enjoyed those very much. Thank you very much. I hope listener, you enjoyed those as well, and we look forward to more interviews, Josh.
You're listening to Josh's Dartistry. Don't forget, you can check us out on Facebook by going to the Josh's Dartistry page. You can follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry, or go to the website www.joshisdartistry.com for the latest news and insight to the world of darts. You can also leave us a comment or a question via our voicemail box. Just call 07739 738 329. Leave us a message and we may play it on air. Now back to the show.
This is Nathan Aspinall, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, Josh, outside of the Premier League, there has been a couple of other competitions going on. Why don't you bring us all the very latest on those?
Yep, I think when we last recorded episode 13, John, Players' Championship 7 was in action at that time, and it was won by Dave Chisnell, picking up his second PDC title in as many months. Chisney went 18 months without winning the title up until February, but beat Daryl Gurney 8-6 in the final. So also good to see Gurney reaching the final, and that awfully propelled him to now 3 wins in the trot in the Premier League.
Neil, nice to see Chizzy picking up a Players' Championship win there, almost as a former Premier League player, a bit of a forgotten man at times, but still obviously bags of quality there for Chizzy.
Yeah, I think there's been signs that he's playing reasonably well. I think a number of tournaments this year he's been in the mix, but it's always good to get a win under his belt. So he's one of those ones that I think are going to sort of float around the sort of 8 to 12 ranking. So if he can find some form and find some momentum, he could see himself move up and quite possibly get himself in contention for next year's Premier League.
Okay, Josh, Players' Championship 7 was quickly followed by Players' Championship 8.
Yep, and it was almost like a vintage Players' Championship 8 because we saw Adrian Lewis take on Raymond van Barneveld in the final. Now, Barney was in his first Pro Tour final since 2015.
Wow.
Had a little bit of luck along the way, survived a lot of match darts in round 2 against Zoran Lurchbacker, but then played very well from then onwards, averaged over 100 in 3 games, I think. Lewis was brilliant in the semis, averaged 110 to beat Clayton, and he took that form into the final and won 8-3 to win his first title for just under 2 years. So, awfully big win for Jackpot.
Again, Neil, 2 players. Nice to see them contesting a final. Adrian Lewis, again, someone that we think we're seeing a resurgence in Lewis this year. I know you've backed him, Neil, on this show before to make his way back to the very top of his game, and probably a confidence booster for Barney as well.
Well, that's what we thought, as I mentioned earlier, that it would be a confidence booster for Barney, but then he... Unfortunately, I think the Rotterdam experience has kind of knocked anything that he may have gained from that. In terms of Lewis, yeah, I think given the opportunity... Again, if like Chisnell, if he can build some momentum, we know he can compete at the very highest level. I can see him getting back to that form. He performed well in the World Championship up until the point that I think he played Van Gerwen, didn't he? If he can just get a few wins under his belt and build that momentum, I think we could see him back in at least the top 8 and heading towards the very top.
I agree. Confidence booster for Barney. Okay, forget Rotterdam. We know all about Rotterdam, but the fact that he managed to get himself to the final, Josh, should give him a little crumb of comfort, surely.
We should do, John, because they're so hard to reach. I mean, they're so competitive. They're also quite grueling days, and playing 7 games in a day is always a question mark I had over Raymond, whether he'll be able to kind of sustain that sort of level of play, but he did so. And he took that into the Premier League in Berlin when he beat Max Hopp. He seemed a bit more confident. Obviously, the Rotterdam would have knocked him back, but more importantly, it gives him a real setting and a real chance now of reaching the World Championship because he got £6,000 for doing so, and on the provisional Pro Tour Order of Merit he's now 5th out of 32 in the road to Ali Pali, so he's on the way. If he can kind of maintain this form on the Pro Tour, he's got a good chance of making Ali Pali. Okay,
Josh, take us back to last weekend. Fly us off to Leverkusen and talk to us about the opening European Tour event of this year.
Yep, the opening European Tour event took place in Leverkusen, John, for the European Darts Open, and it didn't disappoint. Michael van Gerwen beat Rob Cross 8-6 in the final, the top 2 duking it out on stage. Great game. Michael van Gerwen obviously suffered defeat in Berlin to Daryl Gurney, but bounced back brilliantly well. Beat Mervyn King in the first round and repeated the UK Open clash. whitewashed Jermaine Watamina 6-0 to reach the quarterfinals, where he beat Gurney and Price. Survived a match dart against the Iceman in that one. Then he hit an amazing 9-darter against Mensur Suljovic in the semi-finals. 147. He went treble 19 ball tops. I've never seen a 9-darter like that.
He continues to find more and more different ways to astound us and more different ways to complete a 9-darter, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's 3 9-darters this year already, which is incredible. But what's even more astonishing is the fact they've all been completed by different routes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's almost getting bored of it in a 9-darter. That's how good he's become, Michael van Gerwen. So, yeah, he came from 4-2 down as well in that one to beat Suljovic, so that set the final up against Cross. So I fancied Cross. I mean, he'd averaged over 100 in every single game in the tournament. And Michael, whilst he produced the odd glimpse of brilliance, he wasn't at his very, very best, but he saved his best performance until the final. Averaged over 104, hit a 170 checkout in the opening leg, and ran out an 8-6 winner to scoop the £25,000 prize fund.
Neil, Michael van Gerwen opens up the European Tour this year with a win. Van Gerwen's record in the European Tour is absolutely phenomenal over the years, Neil, and me personally, I think this is just the first of many again this year on the European Tour.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I think he won the first Players' Championship this year as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
So it's almost like I'm going to lay down the marker and let the rest of you try and come and catch me.
Okay, well, that is your Players' Championship and European Darts Open update. Congratulations to all the winners, Dave Chisnall, Adrian Lewis, and, of course, Michael van Gerwen.
You're listening to Josh's Dartistry. Don't forget, you can check us out on Facebook by going to the Josh's Dartistry page. You can follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry, or go to the website www.joshsdartistry.com for all the latest news and insight into the world of darts. You can also leave us a comment or a question via our voicemail box. Just call 07739 738 329 and leave us a message, and we may play it live on air. Now back to the show.
This is Jamie Caven, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Right then, welcome back, and it's now time for this.
Cool, what are the odds?
Okay, it is my absolute pleasure to hand you over to a resident odds checker, Mr. Neil Connor.
Thank you very much, John. So staying with the theme of the Premier League, we'll go with the outright winner for 2019. So odds offered by Sky Bet. Tournament winner outright, Michael van Gerwen 2-1 on. Second favourite, Rob Cross 11-2. Outsiders at 20-1, Gurney, Price, Mensur Suljovic and Michael Smith. So if Smith could get himself up the table, then he might be worth a little each way punt. James Wade 12-1, Peter Wright 16-1 and Daryl Gurney 18-1.
I'm surprised James Wade is so long as 12-1, considering how he's played in the position he's been in.
Yeah,
very good value there, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I'm a big James Wade fan, almost as much as you're a fan of Barney, but I think that's a little bit harsh on Mr. Wade.
Third of the odds for him to get to the final.
Wow.
Rob Cross or James Wade to win the 2019 Premier League, boosted from 10-3 to 4-1. So if you fancy Cross or Wade,
I like that a lot.
4-1.
Well, I think if Van Gerwen doesn't win it, it'll be one of them two that does, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving on, Thursday the 4th of April 2019. This week's fixtures that we touched on earlier.
Belfast.
In Belfast. First game of the night, Mensur Suljovic 13-8 to beat James Wade, who is 11-10 to beat Mensur. The draw at 3-1. So some nice odds. But I think that proves how difficult it is on last man standing, that the bookies find it hard to call, and they offer some fairly attractive odds on these results.
Well, Suljovic beat Wade twice in the last 2 weeks, so I think he's good value there.
13-8 if you fancy it. Michael Smith 5-4 to beat Peter Wright. The draw 3-1. Peter Wright 6-4.
I quite fancy the draw. Peter Wright's had the most draws this season in the Premier League with 4. Smith is someone who's obviously looking to come back into form and try and get a win. For me, the value bet there would be the draw.
And they drew in week 2.
They certainly did.
Very attractive 3-1 on the draw. Third game of the night, Rob Cross v Daryl Gurney. Could be an interesting atmosphere, this one, with the crowd really backing Gurney. I don't think it will faze Cross. Cross 11-10 on, so the book is quite fancying Cross there. Gurney 2-1, and the draw again 3-1.
Well, Gurney played Cross last year in Belfast and beat him. That was one of the best games of the Premier League, so interesting that one.
2-1. Okay, and then last game of the night, another feisty encounter. Michael van Gerwen versus Gurney and Price. Van Gerwen 7-2 on. Price 6-1.
Price has played Van Gerwen 15 times, lost 15 times. I think that reflects the odds.
It needs to change at some point, and the draw is 5-1.
Neil, have you got any odds on a 9-darter, either in Belfast or in the Premier League between now and the end of the competition? Because we still haven't had one, Josh. We're still waiting in the Premier League.
We've come close. Obviously, Price missed double 12 in Exeter for the 9-darter, and Smith double 12 in Rotterdam. We've been waiting since 2017, Adrian Lewis, so we're surely due one soon.
What do you reckon, Neil? Any odds on that?
Switching to sporting bet. The question is, will there be a 9-dart finish in the Premier League this year? 6-5. They think there will be. No, 5-3 on.
I think we're due one.
We are. We've seen so many on the Pro Tour on the European Tour.
Odds against. So 6-5 could be worth a punt.
Okay, let's move on to the German Darts Championship. Now, Josh, by the time this podcast goes live and is available for people to download, I think the competition will probably be over. So it's probably not worth us giving out any odds. But do we have any news emanating from that competition?
We do, John. And Michael van Gerwen, the world number 1, is out.
Oh, my word.
He lost to Keegan Brown 6-4. Michael van Gerwen averaged 108. You'd feel cheated if you averaged 108.
I'd be absolutely furious.
Keegan Brown averaged 104, so a great standard from him, and was 100% on his 6 doubles.
Good player, Keegan, Josh.
Yeah, he reached the weekend that Lewis played Barney in the final. Brown lost to Barneveld in the semi-final, so he's also building up a good bit of momentum at the moment. And yeah, Van Gerwen won't be making it 2 from 2 on the European Tour then.
The tournament will probably be over by the time the podcast goes live. Let's see how reliable the bookmakers are.
Yeah, good point.
Sporting Bet now have Rob Cross as the 3-1 favourite, Peter Wright 11-2 second favourite, and James Wade 6-1 third favourite. Keegan Brown is still the outsider at 33-1.
Interesting. And Josh, that's what I'm liking about darts this year. You know, as we've mentioned, Van Gerwen not having it all his own way, and it's competitive.
Yeah, it's so unpredictable, John. The strength in depth now in the PDC is superb. There's so many players capable of producing these 10-plus averages and upsetting the top stars. I think this could be the tournament for Rob Cross. I could be made to look foolish by the time the podcast goes live, but he's not won a title yet in 2019. But his overall average for the year is over 100. I mean, that's incredible over the amount of games he played so far. So I think Cross is due a title. I think he wins this.
I'm going to have a little outside punt on the ferret, Johnny Clayton, 20-1.
20-1. He's Clayton is perfectly capable, Josh.
Yeah, he won the Austrian Darts Open last year. That's obviously helped him get into the world's top 16. So Clayton is more than capable, yeah.
Okay, Neil, any other odds to bring us?
No, that's all for this episode.
Lovely job. Here on the Josh's Dartistry podcast, we always ask you to gamble responsibly. And of course, as ever, when the fun stops, stop.
Cool, what are the odds?
Hi, it's Adrian Lewis, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry podcast.
Right then, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the show. It's time for Challenge Josh. Challenge Josh. Okay, then here we go. Josh, how are you feeling? 13 out of 15 last week, which I thought was quite a good performance.
No, it was. I was pleased with that, John, but I'm sure Neil will be doing his damnedest to make sure I'm in trouble again this week.
Yeah, the man has returned. He's taken the reins, the rightful reins, back over from Challenge Josh. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our resident quizmaster, Mr. Neil Connor.
Thank you very much. I've been waiting for this since episode 12. This one, I think, should put him under a little bit of pressure.
Good, that's what I like to hear. Good. Any ideas on what the subject matter might be, Josh?
Nope, not too sure on this one, John.
Well, we like to keep things topical normally, don't we, Neil?
Yes, and this I think is very topical. Josh's favourite player, Raymond van Barneveld, is Dutch. Mm-hmm. We've just had 2 nights of Premier League action from Holland.
Yes, we have. Rotterdam's finest.
So this is a Dutch darting special.
Oh, yes. Dutch darting special. How'd you feel, Josh?
Skeptical.
Why?
There's a lot of good Dutch darts players.
I think to be honest, I think you'll breeze through this, if I'm honest.
You say that every week.
He says that every week, and then he always laughs after question 4 when there's one ridiculous one in there.
Okay, Neil, are you ready? Questions at the ready?
Here we go.
Question number 1.
Whose nickname is the Cobra?
Jelle Klaassen.
There was some hesitation, though, wasn't there?
The eyebrows go up.
He's a bit crafty. You got Jelle Klaassen's the Cobra, and you got another player I won't mention in case it's another later question. He's also called the Black Cobra, who's also Dutch.
Well, we've got the Cobra, we've got the Black Cobra, we've got the Asp, and we've also got Snakebite. So there's a lot of snake-related nicknames in and around the world of darts. But yes, of course, Jelle Klaassen is the answer. Dutch player, very good Dutch player, Josh, and for me, Jelle Klaassen, I don't think he's really reached the heights since he left the BDO and joined the PDC that many perhaps thought that he might do.
Lovely quality operator, former Lakeside World Champion, been in the Premier League twice, to be fair. He got to the Premier League a couple of years ago, I think 2016. Had a few injury problems and hasn't really recovered since then. But he started to play better on the European Tour this year, so you never know. 2019 could be the resurgence of Klaassen.
Okay, Neil, he's 1 for 1 at the moment. Are you ready for question number 2, Neil?
I am.
Okay, here we go.
Which 3 colours feature on the Dutch flag?
White, red and blue.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. The red, white and the blue, they're horizontal stripes, I believe, aren't they? So I'm sure Van Gurney and Barney have got them on their shirt, have they, Josh, that representing their country?
I believe they do somewhere, yeah.
Just on a side note, thinking of Dutch darts and Holland, World Cup team this year. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, good question. This
are we going to be seeing Van Gogh and Barney, or
I'm not too sure, to be honest, John, because it used to be done via the top 2 in the world, but we've seen sometimes that not be the case. I think Peter Wright missed out the other year for Robert Thornton.
Here we go.
No, I don't know. I mean, there's no strict regime, and obviously at the moment it will be Watamina, who's the number 2 Dutchman. Barney's the 3rd highest Dutchman at the moment. That could change. I don't know if it will, but obviously Barney's reigning champion with Van Gogh, and so whether they'll keep them, I'm not too sure. We'll have to find out on that.
Interesting. Look forward to news on the World Cup. Okay, Neil, 2 for 2. Here we go with question number 3.
Just out of interest, how did you get to Rotterdam?
I flew from London City Airport.
Interesting. Okay, question 3.
Oh God!
If you were to attend the Premier League in Rotterdam, Holland, what is the full name of the airport you would need to fly to en route to the Ahoy Arena?
Rotterdam, The Hague Airport.
That is correct, and I would have been seriously worried, Neil, if he'd have got that one wrong, considering he flew into it and flew out of it just a couple of days ago.
I'd have enjoyed it if he did.
Rotterdam, The Hague Airport is absolutely correct. Josh, you are 3 for 3. It's a good start, mate. It's a good start.
Yeah, I could see Neil was trying to catch me out on that one. He almost did.
Okay, Neil, let's move it on. Here we go with question number 4.
The asset, Paul Nicholson,
who's not Dutch,
who isn't Dutch, was on the end of a 6-1 drubbing in the inaugural final of the Dutch Darts Masters in 2012. Who did he lose to?
Just for
Dutch
the benefit,
Darts Masters.
Yeah, just for the benefit of all of us.
Michael van Gerwen.
Oh, okay. Don't reread the question. Neil, is that the correct answer?
Who did you say, sorry?
Michael van Gerwen.
No, it's not.
Is that? Oh dear! See, if you'd have let me reread the question as I wanted to, perhaps you would have had a bit more thinking time and might not have got it wrong. Neil, just for my benefit, can you please slowly reread the question?
Paul Nicholson was on the end of a 6-1 drubbing in the inaugural final of the Dutch Darts Masters in 2012. Who did he lose to?
So it wasn't Michael van Gerwen. You've got the question wrong.
I don't think it was Barney.
Thinking out loud.
Van der Vault.
Why are you only going Dutch players?
Oh,
let's be honest, he couldn't be further from the...
Why are you only thinking about Dutch players? The Dutch element of the question is the competition.
That's what, that's tripped me up on that one. You'd have to go for, well, I think Taylor, Wade, Lewis, there'd be probably some of the usual suspects.
So that's about 8 answers, all wrong.
just pepper, just throw as much rubbish on the wall, Josh, and see what sticks.
Put that out of our misery then, Neil.
The Wizard, Simon Whitlock.
Simon Whitlock, the Wizard in 2012.
All Australian final.
There we go. So, yeah, you did jump the gun a little bit there, Josh. Think outside the box a little bit, mate. And unfortunately, that's a point drop. So you are 3 out of 4, yeah?
Yep, that's right.
He's dropped an early one, Neil. He's dropped an early one. You've done him early doors. Well done.
He nearly bit the microphone off when he said he seemed so confident, which makes it even sweeter.
Okay, let's go for question number 5.
Okay, Vincent van der Voort,
who is Dutch,
was born in Purmerend, Holland, on the 18th of December 1975. What is his darting nickname?
The Dutch Destroyer.
That is correct. I could see the worry on Josh's face then, Neil, when you were listing Vincent's date of birth. I think he thought it was going to be quite an intricate question about, his sort of shoe size or height or something ridiculous like that. But yeah, Vincent van der Voort, nicknamed the Dutch Destroyer. How is Vincent getting on this year, Josh? Much news on Vincent?
He had a good weekend a couple of weeks ago in Barnsley. Got to back-to-back Pro Tour quarterfinals, first time for a long while. So yeah, great to see Vincent in the latter stages of tournaments again.
Okay, scores. I think we are
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. Let's move on then to question number 6.
Dutch darting legend Raymond van Barneveld has won 3 of the PDC's 5 recognised majors. Name the 2 he hasn't won.
5 recognised majors. I'm sure there's more than 5. Okay.
Well, hang on a sec. I've always thought there's 5 majors, personally.
Yeah, okay.
Let's list them.
Well, you're saying he's won 3 of the 5, so I presume they are the World Championship,
yeah,
the UK Open,
yeah,
and the Grand Slam of Darts. He's also won the Premier League as well, but hopefully that's...
Well, I would count the Premier League as a...
exhibition.
Well...
So I would say the 2 that aren't, that he hasn't won, would be the World Match Play and the World Grand Prix.
That is, of course, correct. Never won the World Match Play, never won the World Grand Prix. But in terms of majors, Josh, it's a pretty good record, isn't it?
He's indeed, yeah. He's reached a final both. Reached a match play final once, lost to Taylor, and lost to Taylor twice in the World Grand Prix final.
Excellent additional information, counts for nothing. Thank you. Question 7. Raymond van Barneveld has twice been runner-up in the World Grand Prix. In 2008 and 2009. Who did he lose to in both finals?
And does he need both names for the full point, Neil?
Yes.
We don't deal in half points around here, do we?
He lost to Phil Taylor in both finals.
That is correct.
You tried to catch him out by saying we needed both names.
Yeah, nice try.
Just trying to dot all the I's and cross all of the T's. Okay, Josh, scores. You are 6 out of 7?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, Neil, please give us question number 8.
Holland's Jan Dekker has been a PDC player since 2015. Prior to that, he made his name in the BDO, and perhaps his best tournament performance coming in 2014, where he got to the semi-final of the Lakeside before being edged out of a place in the final, losing 6-5 to Alan Chuck Norris. Who won that final?
So semi-final lost to Norris. Stephen Bunting.
Stephen Bunting, yeah, of course, winning the 2015 BDO Lakeside. How's Bunting getting on this year, Josh? A man I enjoyed watching in the Premier League when he was in it a couple of years ago.
Been a little bit hit and miss, John. He had a good end to 2018, but he's had a good start to this weekend in the German Darts Championship, beating Dimitri van den Bergh, which is always a good scalp to get.
Very, very good. Okay, 7 out of 8. Neil, let's have question number 9.
We're going to switch now to Michael van Gerwen. For winning the 2019 PDC World Championship at Ali Pali, he won a cool £500,000. Roughly, today's exchange rate, that's equates to about 580,000 euros. In 2002, the Netherlands adopted the euro as a currency. What was the Netherlands' unit of currency prior to this?
What a ludicrous question.
What?
Why is that ludicrous?
It's Dutch. It's darts related. What's the matter?
How is it darts related?
Because we're talking about Michael van Gerwen's prize money and what.
Michael van Gerwen weren't playing in 2002.
No, but we're talking about how much it is in euros and the fact that in 2002 they adopted the euro, and what did they use before that? I think it's a perfectly legitimate question.
So, think about it. Spain, what did they have before the euro? The Spanish.
I don't know.
Well, we could be here for a long time with this.
The Spanish peseta. Italian.
I don't know.
Lira.
I think the lesson in European finance is going to go over his head here.
Should we just pass and move on to questions?
The French.
You don't even want to throw out a guess.
Right, I'll tell you what I'll do. The currency was known as, its three-letter acronym was NLG.
Not a clue. Pointless, might as well just move on.
I don't like his attitude either, Neil.
No, I don't.
Very dismissive of this question. For the record, I would have got the answer to this.
Yeah, so would I. I did work on that conversion, though, from their local currency to the euro. So
Handy.
Neil, what's the answer?
It is the Netherlands guilder.
So that means you're incorrect, Josh. Two wrong, Neil. At this, it's not early stage. We're more than halfway through.
Bit of a sulk as well.
Yeah, he didn't like that question, did he? Bless him. Tough luck. Okay.
He normally blames the fact that he wasn't alive at the time, but he was in 2000.
Yeah, but I weren't really sorting my currency out when I was 7 years old.
I'm surprised you managed to take some currency with you. I thought you would have pitched up with pound notes and expected to spend them in Rotterdam.
Oh, very organised, thank you, John.
We know that's not true from the discussion we had earlier about your travel adapter. Anyway, let's move on. This is question number 10.
Which Dutch player lost 2 BDO World Championship semi-finals in succession, losing 2-1 to Trina Gulliver in 2016 and 2-0 to Lisa Ashton in 2017.
Eileen de Graaf.
Yeah, that is, of course, correct. Heartbreaking to lose 2 semi-finals, Josh, in quick succession.
Yeah, Eileen's a very good player. She's had some good success at the Rotterdam Masters before, but yeah, the Lakeside's eluded her so far.
Still enough quality in the bag, though, Josh, to be competing at that level. And, a world championship is always a possibility.
Definitely. She's still high up in the rankings, age is on her side, so I think she's got every chance of winning a world title one day.
Okay, Neil, he is 8 out of 10. Let's move on to question number 11.
Co Stompy was born on the 10th of September 1962.
The eyes are rolling.
In Amsterdam. What is his darting nickname?
The Matchstick.
Yep, the Matchstick, Co Stompy. He's got that very sort of slight and skinny frame, isn't he? And I'm sure that's what it relates to. So, yeah, Co Stompy, the Matchstick. Okay, let's move on to question number 12, please, Neil.
3 different Dutchmen have won the PDC's UK Open. Can you name all 3?
And we need all 3 for the point, Neil. Yes.
Yes, I won't ask for the years.
Mm-hmm.
Roland Shelton, Raymond van Barneveld, and Michael van Gerwen.
Yeah, pretty conclusive answer. I thought he'd struggle with a Roland Shelton answer, but not a bit of it, Neil. He's straight in there with Roland Shelton.
Yeah, I was impressed. I thought that one might catch him out, so should have asked for the year, really.
Okay, 10 out of 12. Let's move on. Unlucky for some. Number 13.
Jermaine Watamina, currently the number 2 ranked Dutch player, and possibly in pole position to partner Michael van Gerwen at the World Cup of Darts.
That's good knowledge there, Neil. Well done.
He joined the PDC in 2014 and is currently ranked number 29 in the world. What is his walk-on song? And I will not be talking through the lyrics.
That's a shame. Oh dear. I must admit, this is stumped me. This one. I'm pretty sure it's one of them Euro Technic ones that it's not. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's a particularly well-known song. I might be wrong. I can't think of anything. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to pass on that one.
John.
No, I can't think. Maybe if you give me the artist, I might be able to get the song.
Avicii.
Oh yeah, I know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know now.
It's Wake Me Up, isn't it?
Wake Me Up, yeah.
Unfortunately, Josh, that is incorrect. Yeah, Avicii, Wake Me Up.
It's a well-known song. It's not. I was wrong there.
It is a well-known song. It's not some bizarre Euro pop.
No, I like that song. I should have probably got that.
You should have been in the position you are. You should have got that most definitely. It's another one wrong, Neil. He's got 3 wrong so far.
And still 2 questions to go.
Okay, Neil. Let's have, please, question number 14.
Jeffrey Deswan, who made his Premier League debut in Rotterdam on Thursday, in a fiercely fought contest with
Rob Cross.
That's not the question.
Damn.
What is Jeffrey's walk-on song? Now, don't get me wrong, but I think you were in the arena.
I think you were in the arena at the time.
Yeah, the only problem was I was getting our interview with Gurney and Price.
Oh,
sorted.
excuses.
But you said you could hear everything in the press room because when Michael Smith nearly hit his 9 darter,
yeah, we heard the crowd
you could hear
cheering.
it. Yeah. So you can hear the crowd. You probably hear the walk-on music.
I probably could, but if I'm interviewing a player, Neil, I've got to be professional.
Very famous song.
Just reread the question for us, please, Neil.
Jeffrey Deswan, Premier League debutant on Thursday night in Rotterdam. What is his walk-on song?
Josh has his head in his hands. He's thinking hard.
I've got a feeling I could be completely wrong. I don't know the song, but I've got a feeling it's by AC/DC, and it's bugging me. I don't know if it is or not.
Is he close, Neil? Or are you giving him nothing at this stage?
I'd like him to confirm his answer.
I've got a feeling it's by AC/DC. I just cannot think of the name of the song.
Okay, so I'll give you a point if you can tell me your answer in terms of the artist or band who sang the song, and I'll give you the point.
That means it's wrong, because if it was AC/DC, you wouldn't have given me the point. I know that now. No, but I don't have anything. I'm just going to guess AC/DC, but no.
Wrong.
Okay, Neil, give me the band.
It's not a band, it's an artist.
Oh, give me the artist.
Bob Marley.
Bob Marley. It's Could You Be Loved, isn't it?
It is.
Could you be loved and be loved? Yeah, Bob
Very
Marley.
nice, John.
That is, unfortunately, incorrect. So how many have you got wrong now?
4.
4. You can tell Neil's back as host of
you
Challenge
can.
Josh, can't you?
It won't be 5 because this one's about his hero.
Oh dear.
Okay.
There's pressure now.
Can we have some different music for this one, please?
What music do you want? Oh, okay. Yeah, here we go. Let's go with some different music for the final question. Question number 15, please, Neil.
The first ever PDC World Championship 9 darter was achieved by Raymond van Barneveld. Name the year, the opponent, the round, and the double that he finished. It's not that hard to get, you know.
No. So just remind us the 4 things that you want, Neil.
The year, the opponent, the round, and the double.
Okay, Josh, let's take this in order. So can we have the year first, please?
It was the 2009 World Championship.
Yep.
Against Jelle Klassen.
Yep.
In the quarterfinals.
Yep.
And he finished on double 12.
And how many different combinations of 9 darter are there?
Jog on.
Neil, for question 15, he is absolutely correct. Yeah, I would expect you to get that though, Josh, being it's your hero. Well, that's challenge, Josh. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 wrong.
Yeah.
So 11 out of 15. It's worse than last week, Josh. How are you feeling about your Dutch darts questions?
Not too bad, John. I think I probably should have got the Watermina walk on. That Wake Me Up. I should have got that. It's bugging me, that one. But I'd never have got the Whitlock one. I need to swat up on my currency. But no, I'll take 11 because Neil's quite a hard taskmaster.
He is quite a hard taskmaster. He is. Neil, well done. Thanks for putting that together. Great to have you back in the hot seat for Challenge, Josh. And I look forward to you setting the questions for the next episode. Yeah.
Look forward to it.
Okay, that is Challenge, Josh.
Challenge Josh.
Hi, this is Rod Stone from Sky Sports, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry podcast.
Okay, chaps, it's time to look at the latest darting stories in the news.
In the news.
Okay, Josh, we've already mentioned next week's Premier League fixtures, but the fixtures have all been announced, haven't they, for weeks 10 to 16?
Yeah, they were announced on Thursday night at 9 p.m. during Judgement Night, but I think with all the Barney and Van Gerwen drama, it got overshadowed a little bit. But yes, I've got the fixtures to hand here. I'm just going to pick out some of the highlights. Obviously, we've got Cross against Gurney in Belfast. Gurney's homecoming, repeat of last year's game. That's obviously one to look out for. Night 11 in Liverpool, the standout game is Marcus Smith against Marco Van Gerwen, the repeat of the Premier League final last year and obviously the World Championship final. Night 12 heads to Cardiff. Gurney and Price is homecoming and he takes on Smith. That should be quite an interesting one.
Where he's going to get booed, apparently.
No, I think he'll get all the crowd support there. But also on night 12, we've got Rob Cross against Van Gerwen. Currently the top two in the league. They could well be so by the time they head to Cardiff. Then night 13 is held in Birmingham. James Wade against Marco Van Gerwen. Obviously, we saw Wade beat Van Gerwen earlier in the season, so that could be quite an interesting one.
I think I predicted that one, didn't I?
You did as well, yeah. Fair play to you. Good shout that was. Cross against Price, another standout tie in Birmingham. Manchester hosts night 14. We've got Peter Wright against Mensa Silovic. Is always a good one because Silovic has won 8 out of his last 9 against Wright, which is, I find that incredible, really. Cross against Smith's another good one. Gurney against Van Gerwen. Obviously, repeaters their game in Berlin, which Gurney won. The penultimate night of league action is in Sheffield. The standout game is Marco Van Gerwen against Peter Wright. And then night 16 in Leeds. That is the final night of league action when the race for the top 4 concludes. And I think the standout game for me is James Wade against Rob Cross. 2 players who I expect to be in the top 4 come the end of the season. And then obviously, following on from that, May the 23rd, the O2 Arena hosts the playoffs.
Neil, the final night, as Josh mentioned there in Leeds, Rob Cross versus James Wade on the final night before finals. Do you think that could be a deciding game, or do you think both of them will be home and hosed by then?
I've got 3 people that I think will make the top 4, and they are 2 of the 3, the other one being Van Gerwen. I'm not sure about the 4th place at the moment. I don't know what you two think, but I think they're probably the 3 most likely to qualify.
Yeah, I agree. I think I said earlier on, I think the 4th spot is very much up for grabs. If I had to pick one now, I would go for Daryl Gurney.
Yeah.
I just think he had a really good, not only because he's 4th at the moment, but he had a really good second half of the season last year. Went from, I think, 7th to 5th. He just missed out by a couple of points. I just think Silovic, Wright and Price are just a little bit inconsistent, but it wouldn't surprise me if Marcus Smith has a real big run from 8th to get a place.
I think you're right. I think 4th place is very much up for grabs. I think between now and the end it's going to be very, very tight, but my pick for to pick up that 4th place is Tottenham Hotspur.
Top 4 of the trophy job.
You'd probably be quite happy with that.
Probably quite ambitious the way things are going. Okay, Josh, thank you for that. That's the Premier League fixtures. We touched on it earlier, Josh, but let's talk about Michael Smith's recent withdrawal.
Yep, I'm not sure the reason why he withdrew, but Michael Smith is not in Hildesheim this weekend. He withdrew from the German Darts Championship. Smith, he's not had the best of starts of 2019, following on from his World Championship win. As Neil mentioned, he had his injury problems. I'm not sure the reason why. Maybe taking some time out to spend with the family, because we know the Premier League is such a grueling schedule. A lot of time away from home. Obviously, he's been in Berlin and Rotterdam, so maybe that's the factor behind it. But yep, no Marcus Smith this weekend, so a chance for some of the other players to emerge and have a good run.
Neil, let's hope it's nothing too serious, because obviously he does have a very big match coming up on Thursday against Peter Wright.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I think his season has been a little bit disrupted and a bit disjointed so far. So the sooner he can get back injury-free and hopefully nothing else is a problem for him, the sooner the better.
I don't think it's an injury issue, because I think he pulled out before Thursday's action when he played James Wade. So I'm not sure as the factor behind that. But yeah, hopefully all's well with Michael and he's returning on form in the Premier League next week.
Okay, well, we'll keep our eyes on Michael going forward. Josh, our next story, some recognition for the PDC and in particular their World Championship.
Yep, obviously the World Championship, one of the most iconic events, not only on the darting calendar, but obviously on the sporting calendar as well. And congratulations to the PDC, because they've been nominated, well, the PDC World Championship has been nominated in the Sports Business Awards for the 3rd consecutive year. So great accolade for them, and wish them all the best.
The PDC World Championship, it does go from strength to strength, doesn't it? And it's easy to see why it's being rewarded for its success.
Yeah, and I've been lucky enough to see it transition from the Circus Tavern to a great arena at the Ali Pali. And I think every year you just see more and more people trying to get tickets for the event, more and more people travelling from afar to be at the event. And this year we saw a number of lookalikes that were actually quite impressive.
We certainly did, yeah. My wife and my mother had their photo taken with a Michael van Gerwen lookalike, didn't they?
They did indeed, and I think we've got his business card.
We have got his business card. Josh, obviously the PDC World Championship last year saw the most amount of players that have ever competed for the trophy last year. Do you see it growing again? Do you think they'll extend it to more players, or perhaps, we've seen the prize money increase as well over recent years? Do you see any more changes on those fronts, or do you think it will settle down for the next year or two on that format?
Yeah, not in the immediate future now. I think it's going to be 96 players again next year. Whether it'll go any bigger, I think it's difficult to go much bigger. I mean, obviously they're trying to globalise the game, make it more international. I can't see it going any higher than 96 players for the foreseeable, but the prize money's on the rise all the time. It's still going to be 500,000 for next year, I believe, but in the coming years, who's to say it won't increase even more?
Yeah, Neil, you mentioned when it was announced that it was going to 96 players that sometimes you felt it was a bit much and you found it, hard to keep up with all the sessions, particularly the afternoon sessions. I'll take it you wouldn't want to see it grow in numbers any more than it
No, I
currently
don't
is.
think so. I think my comment is more about, you get tired before the end of the competition, and when it's really going quarterfinals, semi-finals, final, you've been watching for the best part of 3 or 4 weeks, and it can, we all love the darts, but it can become tiresome day after day.
You try working on it.
Yeah, so it does become a bit tiresome. So for me, it should stay at the very maximum with 96.
Okay, our final story, Josh, relates to the BDO. The BDO have been dropping some hints that there's going to be some big announcements soon via their social media accounts, but it appears those announcements might not be as quickly forthcoming as we first thought.
Yep, I read an article in the Metro by Phil Hayes, a very good darts journalist, a couple of months ago, I believe, or maybe, about a couple of months ago, saying that there'd be big BDO announcements from the chairman, Des Jacklin. I think he's quite an ambitious character, Des. He's had a good impact, I think, on the BDO. Some good sponsorship deals. We saw Eurosport and Quest for the World Championship. That was a success. I think there was a few 3-year deals in the pipeline, so they've got a bit of stability there. But I think he promised in January that come the end of February or early March, there'd be some big BDO announcements. But he said there's a spanner in the works. We're not quite sure what that spanner is, but hopefully there'll be some sort of announcements in the coming days from the BDO.
Both of you, any thoughts? I know we've got nothing concrete, but have you got any ideas or thoughts what these announcements might be relating to?
Yeah, I'm not too sure really, John. I mean, I'd suspect it'd be something relating to maybe a television deal for any upcoming major tournaments, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
I'd be surprised if it was a TV deal, Neil. I think, as Josh mentioned there, the Eurosport and the Quest options that we saw last year were quite good, and I don't really see how. Well, of course they could improve on it if they got a deal with Sky Sports that would blow it out the water. But I think they're in a good position with those two providers at the moment.
Yeah, I thought the coverage was good, but maybe it could be a longer term plan for one of those two channels or both. So I don't want to speculate because it's very difficult. There's always things to do with TV deals, sponsorships, etc.
Could be prize money. You're not going to be debuting, are you, Josh?
I'm not going to be no. But in the article with the Metro, Des Jacklin spoke about the women's prize money for the World Championship and how he thinks it should increase. So maybe it could be something relating to that. Who knows? But yeah, hopefully we'll see some sort of announcement from the BDO in the near future.
Okay, looking forward to those announcements. Josh, any more news items for us this week?
Nope, that's all for this episode, John.
Lovely job. That is your In the News.
In the news.
This is Wayne Mardle, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, before we bring the podcast to a close, it's time to answer your questions that have been coming in on Twitter. This is Josh's Twitter chatter. Okay, as ever, you've been sending in your questions for the panel to answer via Twitter. Josh, our first question has come in from Daniel Strobel. His question is, please quote which players you think are in the Premier League in maybe 5 years' time. What are we thinking, Josh?
I take it Daniel means current players and maybe players for the future. So obviously you'd expect Michael van Gerwen still to be in the Premier League in 5 years' time. Rob Cross.
Yeah.
Michael Smith.
Yeah.
James Wade, he's still relatively young. Gurney and Price. I think we'll see Dimitri van den Bergh in there. Jeffrey Deswan, we've seen him as a contender this year.
Let me flip the question on its head for you, Josh. Let's think about players that won't be in the Premier League in 5 years' time that are currently with us. Obviously, Barney we know about with his impending retirement. Is there anyone else that you don't see in the Premier League in 5 years' time?
I know we haven't seen him this year, but I don't see Gary Anderson still playing professional darts in 5 years' time.
Yeah, that's not an unreasonable shout with regards to Gary's availability. We know he's made statements before about the length of time he's got left in the game. That wouldn't surprise me. Neil, Gary Anderson, for you, Premier League in 5 years' time or not?
Nope. And I'd also say the same for Peter Wright.
Yep. Mensah as well, he's not getting any younger. I think he's 47, 48. I could be wrong on that.
Oh, that's young in darting terms. Look at Taylor.
Yeah, but Taylor's almost...
Look at Paul Lim.
Yeah. Taylor's the anomaly, though, really, isn't he, John? I mean, not many players have sustained that level of longevity and brilliance up to his age. So Mensah still could be. I mean, it's weird because he's quite an experienced player, but he's relatively new to the Premier League and the latter stages. It's only the last 4 or 5 years we've really seen Mensah kind of rise up the ranks. But yeah, in terms of new players,
we haven't. I think Gurney and Price will be.
Yeah, Gurney I think still will be.
Yeah, but then we're looking at players like Aspinall.
Yep.
Hop.
Yeah, I was going to say Max Hop is a big name for me. I would think he'll be up there or thereabout. It's difficult, isn't it? Because there's only so many places available. We can't accommodate all of them, but Hop is certainly one I'll have my eye on for the Premier League.
I think Van den Bergh and obviously Deswan I've referenced there, two of the most exciting talents. Also another one we're going to see him return soon, Corey Cadby. I think he's got a great chance to win the Premier League. He's what the Premier League's all about. He's box office. He's a great player. You know, shows great emotion on the stage. I can see him being a Premier League fixture for years to come.
Okay, Daniel, well, there's some ideas for you for the Premier League in maybe 5 years' time. If you've got any thoughts or suggestions on that, do get in touch with us at Josh's Dartistry on Twitter and let us know your thoughts. Carl Fletcher's also been in touch, Josh. He says, considering none of them won, which contender do you think acquitted themselves the best? Josh?
Yep, good question from Carl. Great statistician, by the way. You check his work out. I think Luke Humphries had the highest average. He really impressed me against Gurney and Price because he started quite poorly. Could have been 3-0 down, but showed a lot of character to fight back. Chris Dobie was really good in week 1. I think there was a lot of pressure on him. I think if he'd have performed poorly, I think that could have really had a big detrimental effect on how the contenders were perceived. So I thought he was very impressive.
My favourite in terms of the fanfare and the fact that it was against MVG was John Henderson.
Yeah. And the fact that he managed to get something from the match as well and didn't take a pasting.
I think we all thought he was going to be kind of the sacrificial lamb, if you like. I think having to play Michael van Gerwen is always a tough ask for any player. But yeah, Henderson, he was the biggest surprise for me because I didn't see him getting a point against van Gerwen. So yeah, I think Humphries and Dobie in terms of performances were most impressive. Van den Bergh also. But yeah, Henderson I think was the most magical moment without question.
Okay, Bob Houghton has been in touch on Twitter. He asks, who has the best chance of winning the World Cup? And we've touched on the World Cup not too long ago, but who has the best chance of winning the World Cup? Are the Netherlands still up there? Or will Crossham Smith or Scotland or Wales get the win? Josh, I know you like the World Cup as a competition. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love the World Cup, the unique pairs format. It makes a great television. I think the Netherlands will be up there, whoever represents them. Obviously, Michael van Gerwen in your corner, you're going to be hard to beat. We don't know yet whether it'll be Watermina or Van Barneveld or maybe someone else, but they'll definitely be up there. I think England have a great chance this year. It looks like it's going to be Rob Cross and Michael Smith representing them, so that will be a very formidable team.
Anderson and Wright for Scotland?
Well, we expect so. I mean, obviously Gary's pulled out the Premier League, but we've seen him return to the Pro Tour now, so Gary should be back to full fitness by then. Wales,
Price and Clayton probably.
Yeah, Gerwin and Johnny are good friends as well, so they'll have a good bond. Belgium could be dangerous if Kim Huybrechts can find some form, because obviously Van den Bergh, they had a good run to the semis last year. They're a good outside bet. Australia, obviously Whitlock and Anderson.
Australia are always a team for me to look out for. I think they're very strong.
Yeah, they always have a good World Cup, Australia. They're always quite dangerous. So yeah, but I think it's hard to look past the top 3 of Netherlands, England and Scotland, although Netherlands won't be top seeds this year because irrespective of whether it's Watermina or Barneveld, I think there's only one Dutch player and that's Van Gerwen in the top 25, so they'll probably be about 4th seeds, I think. That could have an impact.
I fancy England, to be honest.
Josh, the World Cup of Darts this year, where is it taking place, or am I putting you on the spot there?
I believe it's Hamburg, John. Don't quote me on it, but I believe it's Hamburg. It's definitely in Germany.
Okay, Neil, I'm going to throw this question over to you. Paynton Darts Academy has been in touch on Twitter, and they ask, with the JDC and new BDO systems for youngsters, do you think the records of the greats like Taylor and Barneveld can be beaten? What are your thoughts, Neil?
I think anyone beating Phil Taylor's records, I think that's going to be tough for anybody. If I'm honest, we're talking about 16 World Championships, and I think the main difference now is that the fields there's a lot more depth in the fields, and I think there's a lot more quality than probably were around when Phil was winning his early majors. That's not to say that they weren't good players, but I think in terms of the quality, it's increased, and in terms of the numbers, it's increased. So, it's great that there's investment in the sport for young, the juniors. That's not to say that we won't get a multi-world champion come through from that, but I do think Taylor at 16 World Championships is head and shoulders above the rest. You look at Van Gerwen, he's not going to get to 16. He's not going to get close to 16, so be difficult.
Josh, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm going to guess that you probably agree with Neil's sentiment on that, and those kind of numbers are going to be very hard to top.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with Neil. I don't like to say it, but I have to on this occasion. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for anyone to top Phil Taylor's achievements, or Michael Van Gerwen or Raymond van Barneveld, those who are mentioned. I think, as Neil said, the strength in depth now is to such a degree where it's very hard to dominate. I mean, Michael Van Gerwen's obviously the closest we've got to domination, and he does dominate to a certain extent, but even last year, I think he only won 3 major televised tournaments, which by his standards is quite a disappointing year. So there's so many good players coming through. The way the PDC have invested in the JDC and grassroots darts, there's so many opportunities for young players coming through, but it's going to be very difficult to sustain that and have the longevity that likes of Taylor and Barneveld have enjoyed.
Okay, we've got one more question that's coming via Twitter from Katie Dean. She asks, what are your opinions on commentators writing people off before the game has even got going? For example, when Gurney played Michael Van Gerwen, all they said was he'd take a draw, even when he was playing well and winning. Katie quite cheesed off there with the commentators there writing Gurney off before the game was even over. Josh, thoughts on that?
I must admit, I can't recall the commentary, what was said, but to be fair, I think Darryl drew with Peter Wright 6-all the week before, but I think obviously previous to that he'd lost 7-0 and 7-1 to Cross and Wade respectively, and I think going into the match against Marco, I think if he would have been offered a point before the game, he probably would have taken it. So it's a difficult sort of obviously mentality to have. I think as a player, you always believe you can win. I think if you don't believe you can win, you've got very little chance. But I'm sure the commentators weren't intending to come across as disrespectful or dismissive to Darryl Gurney's chances. But I think against Michael Van Gerwen, you're always going to be up against it.
Neil, it's always very difficult to back against Van Gerwen before a game. The bookies' odds tell us that much. It is difficult for us to back against him, isn't it?
No, exactly, it is, and and the commentators are just saying what most people are thinking, and I don't think that's limited to darts. I think it's commentary on all sorts of sports. I think they, quite often the commentators offer, particularly Wayne Mardle offers a different insight to the game, as do Chris Mason and Paul Nicholson as players, and yeah, it's not something that really sticks out to me. I suspect she's probably more cheesed off that she's married to you.
Well, I wasn't going to mention that it was my wife, but yeah, she's probably even more cheesed off that Van Gerwen hasn't had it all his own way this year in both the Premier League and other tournaments, Josh, as we've already mentioned. Van Gerwen obviously being her favourite player.
Yeah, you say that, John, but I think she's also a big fan of Darryl Gurney and Michael Smith, so she's keeping her options open.
She's a bit like you. She likes to sort of cover all bases and make sure that she's on the winning team at all times.
What do you mean by me?
Well, when we ask you a question, you give us sort of 4 or 5 different answers, if not more.
Fair point.
Okay, well, I hope that's answered your question, and a very happy Mother's Day to you as well this weekend. I think that's all the questions we've got. Thanks for sending those in. Always good fun to answer those. You can, of course, contact us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry. Check out the Facebook page, and thanks for those, and send them in for the next show. Well then, chaps, that brings us neatly to the end of the show. That is episode 14 in the can, in the bag. We'll get it edited and online as soon as possible, hopefully within the next sort of 24 to 48 hours. Gentlemen, a very, very happy birthday to all of us, to the Josh's Dartistry podcast. 12 months of darting and audio joy, Josh.
Indeed, yeah. Like I said earlier, John, time flies when you're having fun, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Been enjoying it. Neil, thanks for your company this evening.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to. Did we think we would get to a year of broadcasting?
I thought we'd do episode 1 and be thrown off the air either by people who didn't enjoy the show or the broadcasting watchdog or someone like that, and never to be on the airways
There's
again.
still time.
Yeah, I think if I wasn't able to edit the show after we've recorded it, particularly taking out all of Josh's swearing and profanity
how dare you?
I do think a bloopers or outtakes episode could be comedy gold.
I have got plenty of material saved.
It'll be our longest show, wouldn't it?
Yeah, plenty of material saved on the hard drive of all the cock-ups and the embarrassments on the JDP, and yeah, one day we might put a little show together and release those with Josh's permission, of course. But we'll see how we get on with that. It might take me a little bit of time to put that together. Anyway, once again, thanks for downloading the show. Really appreciate it. iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Josh's website, www.joshsdartistry.com. They are all the places that you can find us. Do interact with us on Twitter. And thanks for your time. Spread the news. If you like the show, please do let people know. If you know other darts fans, just tell them about the podcast. Tell them to download it. If you get the chance to go on iTunes and leave us a little review, again, we would very, very much appreciate it. That just helps us to become more prominent in the iTunes charts and lift us up. So once again, Neil, thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Josh, thank you for your time.
Thank you, John.
That was episode 14, and we will see you next time.
Josh's Dartistry.